And I should see it come live.
Yep, you'll see it here shortly. It should come live. It's counting. Voila, it says we're live. Okay, it
Okay,
should.
so here's the live stream. I'll just bring it up and I'll get into the chat.
There you go. They changed this all up on me, man. I had to go through a different freaking process with the studio, and I had to reset everything back up because they did away with the classic. They want to force me onto their new system. That's how Google works, right?
Yeah, just either you do what we tell you to do, or we kick you off the channel, kick you off the
Yeah,
platform.
they just kick you right off the platform. They don't.
I mean the new comment censoring algorithms are insane. I used the word scum the other day. I said yes, these are scumbag criminals about police or something, and it deleted the comment with the word scum in it, and I had to change it to the police are really bad people, and then it would take that comment. Couldn't call police scum anymore.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that's just it. That's where we're going, man. Pretty soon, they're gonna come through here and they're gonna rip anybody down that's speaking truth at all.
Oh yeah, it's done and dusted. YouTube. I'm over on Parler now and trolling the women over on Parler, but YouTube, you can barely put a comment in. I'm now when I send my videos out, I'm sending a link to my video in my Dropbox so that people can go watch it in the Dropbox and make comments in the Dropbox. So far, nobody's doing it, but at least for just to say what it is that they think, they can go put a comment on the Dropbox.
Well,
So
there
that's
you
kind of what
go.
we're up to.
I mean, YouTube, you gotta be careful now what you do just because of what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. So
people fool themselves because they think if they run over to all these other sites and if they're throwing off YouTube, they'll go to these other sites. Well, you can go to all these different video sharing sites or live streaming sites, wherever you want. I don't care. They fail to understand that the internet was created by DARPA, which is a government entity. They fail to understand that they have control of the entire internet. And when they tell you they're going to shut you down, they're going to shut you down. It doesn't matter where you run. You're on
oh
the
yeah,
internet. You're not going to run. You can change channels all you want. Don't worry. You can come up on some other site and say, they don't. It's like I hear people say, bitch, you don't. You want to bet? Bitch, you already took two of mine down.
yeah. BitChute took 3 channels of mine down so far.
Yeah. And so, don't tell me they don't. You people don't know what you're talking about. There is no safe site on the internet to be censor free. Not happening. Well, I got my own website. You had your own website. Watch and see.
Yeah, yeah. I think I told you way back in the day when I was still living in Germany, the German government blocked my website into Germany. So nobody in Germany could see my website.
Well, it's like this live stream we're doing here. You and I could do a 10-minute live stream and cut it off. It'd take about 17, 18 hours before it show up on my site on my channel.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can get it a
That's
couple, 3 hours later and I have to jump in and I have to open it up on my side, but nobody else can see it unless they're on a cell phone. Okay, but if you're out of the country, you can be on a laptop, computer, or cell phone and see it. But if you're in the United States, you ain't seeing it on a PC. It
yeah.
won't show up.
Did you see the shadow banned PewDiePie the other day?
No, I didn't
They,
see that. Yep.
they even shadow banned PewDiePie. He put this video up, and it only got like 40,000 views in the first 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, well,
Everyone's like, and you couldn't see it directly on his channel. You actually had to have the address. So I don't know who the 40,000 who had the address, and you couldn't search for it. You couldn't find it. I'm like, this is like the number one guy on your platform when you're shadow banning him. Okay, well, that's just completely ridiculous, right? Shadow banning PewDiePie is the height of ridiculousness.
yeah,
So that's where they're going. That's where they're going.
it is. This is where we're headed. It ain't going away. I don't. This. I don't. It blows me away, Peter. It just blows me away and how it can be so blatantly in people's face what's going on in society. So in people's face, and people are so zombified. I don't
Yeah,
think they could see their hand right here, Peter.
that's just a crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. What do you mean they're
Oh,
censoring people on YouTube? No, that's not
oh
happening.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, they would
Those
never
people
do
said
that.
bad things. They should be censored.
Well, I
So,
showed them they got in the house right now over here in the United States, okay, and of course they're using QAnon, okay. You know what I'm talking about, Q,
yeah,
okay. They're using that, and of course that was another psyop that was brought to you by your one and only, you know. That's where that came from. That's a big psyop, okay? But
yeah.
they're using that to remove the First Amendment. It's in the
Yeah,
House right now. They
yeah,
are literally
they're
going
all
to
working on it.
remove the First Amendment, which is your freedom of speech.
Yeah,
And do you see anybody on YouTube talking about no, no? And you watch all these idiots run around here and keep the United States destabilized, calling themselves auditors. I'm fighting and auditing people to make sure we have our First Amendment. Really? You haven't opened your eyes, have you? Have you opened
yeah.
your eyes further than what you believe? No, of course you wouldn't. Would you visit a government website and fucking look, see what bills are in the House or in the Senate? Oh no, that'd be too much trouble, wouldn't it? Well, how about 1154? That's HR 1154. Yeah, that would be the number of the bill. Yeah, I
Yeah.
showed it to people. I don't see anybody doing it. They're not doing nothing. They don't care. So what? And most of these people ain't even looking, so they have no idea. So and these people actually think they're helping going out there auditing the police. Well, you are helping. You're helping the bankers. You're helping the elite. Because that's who the elite is the 13 families, which are the bankers, which owns the monetary systems globally.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is this: what we need to do. Of course, nobody's going to do it. But what needs to happen is you either need to go after the 13 families and take everything away from them and lock them up where they belong, or you need to create a new monetary system before they go digital because that's already in place. It's already set in place. I mean, the Bitcoin was created right out of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is the Rothschilds.
Yeah, I didn't believe the. I remember being shown Bitcoin in like 2012, and it's like, oh yeah, this one guy developed this thing over here, and I'm like, you can't be believing that. And I decided not to buy any because I knew that they were a mechanism to trace people. That's what they were going to be used for.
That's exactly what it's about.
But but
That and the
the
fact
funny
that anything you buy, they can decide what you're buying, what you're not buying. If you say something they don't like, they can shut off your freaking access to it.
yeah,
At
yeah,
least with tangible currency, you could still buy, you could still trade, whatever.
yeah.
You know,
The sad thing is if I had bought a bit of Bitcoin at the time, then I wouldn't have had the money troubles that I had. So such is life. But I never expected to have the money troubles that I've had over the last 8 years. So that's just such is life. But yeah, you lead on with the agenda, whatever you want to talk about. We can start
well,
with our.
basically, my idea would, of course, that's where you need to start. Is you need to start with taking the monetary system away from who has it, or creating a new one. But you got to get people who won't accept it. But if you create a new one, you're gonna have to have an army next to you because these fuckers will be coming for you.
Oh yeah, well look at Libya, right? They bombed Libya back into the Stone Age because Gaddafi rebelled and was talking about creating some sort of currency for Africa. And they bombed the country back into the Stone Age. It's 4 million people. Libya, as a political entity, is irrelevant on the world scale. 4 million people, that's smaller than LA, right?
Yeah.
And they bombed the place back into the Stone Age. You do not talk about having a non-controlled currency around here. That's not okay.
No, it's not okay to do it. It's just it's sad because there's absolutely no excuse for people to be in the situation they're in.
Yeah.
Oh, there
Well,
really isn't.
look how the police are enforcing COVID or these bug rules. Sorry, look, there was a case down in Australia. This is one that I've been really having a lot of fun with, where this pregnant woman put up a post about having a protest against the lockdown rules in Melbourne, in Victoria, and the police went and arrested this pregnant woman. And I'm just laughing about, well, you women demanded a police state for men. How do you feel like now it's turning up for you? I'm telling them that. Oh, I'm the worst guy in the world. But police in Melbourne are handing out $10,000 fines for opening your shops and things like this. They're going right along with it,
Yeah.
and the military will go right along with it. And that's a very short, very slippery slope, and we're about halfway down that one now.
Oh well, we're there, Peter. I mean,
Yeah.
people by the masses are just going along to go along. They don't want to. They're afraid of not fitting in with the rest or being ostracized. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
and they're afraid to go against any kind of narrative because, well, that guy might have a piece of metal on his shirt and have a uniform and have bubble gums on his car, or that might be a government official. It might be a somebody. Okay, literally somebody's and nobodies, and we're nobodies, right?
Yeah, yeah. The police are going right along with it because they know that if
Oh,
they
they
get
are.
fired.
I wanted to prove a point here, freaking right at the beginning of looking into this, okay? And I already knew what the results would be, but I had to do it anyhow because I wanted to prove that I already knew and that I was accurate. Okay, so I got the video of Anthony Fauci sitting there and standing there in the freaking university, and I proceeded to call the local cop shop and says, okay, so if I got a video of somebody telling you 4 years before it took place, okay, of a pandemic, okay, would you look into that? And he says, and I said, so Anthony Fauci, and he's, oh, no, we can't do about that. Sorry. You might want to call the sheriff's department. Okay, so I called the sheriff's department. No, we can't do anything about no, no, we can't even look into that. No. Oh, okay, so if I had been the one that said this, I'd already be in jail. Under the jail, matter of fact. Okay. But because it's
Yeah.
Anthony Fauci that said it, oh, you can't. No, he says you're gonna have to call the state crime unit. So turn it into the state crime unit. Okay, so I pull up state crime unit and it answers Fusion Center. Oh, lo and behold, right the Fusion Center. So, of course, they ain't going to do anything about it, right? Because they were created after 9/11, after the phony baloney story there. Okay? So I hung up from them and I said, okay, let me call the feds. So I called the local feds in my state. And guess where the phone call landed? Right back at the Fusion Center.
Yeah, I mean
So
it's
you
the whole
can't
thing's
turn them
ridiculous.
in because nobody's doing anything. So my thought frame is this: if you're a cop or you're a sheriff or you're a highway patrolman or if you're a don't matter who the fuck you think you are, if you're going to turn your head and look the other way to a crime that you'd bust anybody else for and let this happen, you need to take off your credentials, put them on your desk, and go to fuck home.
Yeah, yeah. But they want their paycheck. I was on Parler the other day, and this guy, I said, the only good cop is a dead cop, right? And this guy got really angry. I wore the badge for 30 years, and I'm really proud. And blah 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 blah. How dare you say that? I served the community. Blah 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 blah. And he did this big rant at me, right? This 30-year veteran retired cop. And I said, you, sir, supported women's perjury in divorce courts, and you know it. And you, sir, dragged men out of their own homes based on false allegations by women, and you know it. And then he just, well, I never did that myself. I said, oh, really? You expect me to believe that? If you never did it yourself, you know lots of guys all around you that you worked with over the period of 30 years that did exactly that, and you said and did nothing. And he goes, well, I haven't got time to talk to the likes of you.
Of course, I ain't got time to take responsibility for my behaviors.
Yeah, and
That's
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
crux of it. It's all the tool. I said, I did a live stream the other day, and that's, it was literally about the monetary system because that is the reason let's look at a couple commonalities that you have here. When in the history of mankind do we know of that there was ever a pandemic, a real pandemic, that went viral all over the world? Do you ever remember a global pandemic?
Well, the only one was the Spanish flu, right?
But I
And
don't think that was global neither.
no, the Spanish flu was global, but the way that they got it to go global was they gave it to the soldiers through the vaccinations, and then the soldiers went home.
Well, there you go.
The
That was what
soldiers
should
were
have
from
happened.
all over the world. That's how they got it to go global. Was the soldiers were from all over the world. All the soldiers got vaccinated, or many of the soldiers got vaccinated before they were sent home, and the vaccine was the Spanish flu.
Okay, well, that could be a possibility. Here's the other one. Okay, so as much as America seems to be hated for being terrorist, which we are, right?
Yep.
So, do you suppose that if a cop squatted on somebody's neck here in America, that there's going to be protests all across the world over a cop killing somebody in America?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just one big more psyop. That people in the UK, oh, people in Australia are running around doing with Black Lives Matters, right? And you're like, excuse me, but have you actually talked to any of the Aboriginal people of late? Did they've got dark skin? Do their lives matter? And the answer is, of course not. Their lives don't matter at all. But
Oh, well, that was a
the
great
idea,
psyop. But Black Lives Matter. Do you know there's an entire list of the funding? Okay, and I
oh
was
yeah,
looking through that list, and it was just awesome. I mean, I'll just give you a short spill, okay, of people who are funding Black Lives Matter. Okay, of course we know George Soros is. Of
yeah.
course we know Bill Gates is. But I'll bet you didn't know that Facebook, Twitter, Apple, okay, that's right,
Oh,
Apple, of all
Nike
people,
put in
right?
a Nike put in a
GE,
hundred
yep,
million.
General Electric, yeah, GE,
Yeah,
all of your corporations is a gigantic list. Every one of your corporations was dishing money into Black Lives Matter. Oh, what
yeah,
a quinky dink that would be, huh?
yeah. But it's they've got money coming out. There is, but the idea that there's people marching down the street in Australia talking Black Lives Matter is such hypocrisy when that none of them have marched down the street for the last 200 years about the original people, right? So it's insane. It's the Black Lives Matter thing is just so clearly so clearly funded, and it's like anybody who can't figure this out now should just really. Well, my argument is if you haven't figured this out by now, maybe the depopulation program is a good idea with that person. Right? That's
Yeah.
kind of
Well, I
that's
see
kind
the
of my view about
commenters
it.
saying that it's funded by just, okay, Act Blue. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but it's funded by a whole list of corporations.
Yeah,
If
it's
you
funded
leave
by a
all the
lot of
rest
people.
off, if you leave all the rest out and say it's only by them, you don't know what you're talking about. You better go back to school and do your homework some more.
Yeah, there's a lot of people throwing money into BLM. A lot of
Yes, there
people,
is.
and you're just like, when was the last time? Like you've got all this money being thrown into BLM. How much money have any of these people thrown into, say, homeless veterans? Right?
Oh,
How much money has Nike? Nike gave BLM $100 million, right? And you go, well, how much money has Nike put in for homeless veterans? Oh, Zot. Maybe gave a few homeless veterans a few pairs of shoes, if anything. But Nike has never done anything like that. And paying that clown Colin Kaepernick lots of money for being a clown, you know,
yeah.
that's,
Well,
that's
it's completely nuts, Peter, because you got so many corporations that dump money into Black Lives Matters. You got fraudulent event that supposedly took a place up in Minnesota that never happened. Okay, that was just a Hollywood act put in people's face. You have the digital currency sitting there. Kodak, right? The company
yeah,
called Kodak that
yeah,
created film and cameras. Well,
yeah.
but they've created the new digital currency.
Kodak's creating it.
Kodak created fucking digital currency and it's hooked right to the Federal Reserve.
I didn't know Kodak was behind it. I was reading an article this week just about the new digital currency that the Federal Reserve is planning on bringing out.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me an article and said, "Oh, this is big news." I'm like, "Well, it's been coming a long time. I didn't know exactly how or when, but a digital currency has been on the cards for a long, long time, and the currency will be special drawing rights. So, and the thing about special drawing rights is if there's special drawing rights, there's going to be ordinary drawing rights for the rest of us plebeians, and you're not going to get your drawing rights unless you're being a very good boy, right?
You got it. You're going to have to be a really good boy. And then you might get a couple little shekels that'll maybe get you a couple slices of bread and a glass of water for the day.
Yeah, but did I tell you? I mean, I put a video out about it, but I don't think I ever told you directly. Years and years ago, like 2009, something else like that, 2008, 2009, something like that. I caught a flight between Dublin and London because we were working with the telco in Dublin, and they have the insurance and the amount of money you get paid for your insurance on the back of the airline ticket, right?
Uh-huh.
And so it's because it's Ireland, it was Aer Lingus. This is, you're entitled to 200 euros or blah 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 blah, and it's always on the back of the ticket. Well, on the back of this ticket that I got this day, that was denominated in special drawing rights. I'm like, whoa, somebody's jumped the gun and put special drawing rights as the currency on the back of the airline ticket. And I'm like, somebody's jumped the gun accidentally there. And that was like 2008, 2009, something like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's been about 3 months or so ago now that I'd found out the Kodak was involved in this, and I was looking over the documentation, and sure as shit, they are.
yeah,
Kodak
yeah.
freaking was actually in bed with freaking the Federal Reserve, and they created another form of a digital currency. But you got to figure they're going to go digital worldwide, so they're going to want more than one form for different nations. So,
Yeah, there's lots of digital currencies that are going to come out,
but
and
it's all going to be the same thing. It's all going to be trace and track. Every purchase you ever make, they know what you bought. They can decide what you're allowed to buy, what you're not allowed to buy, how much you're allowed to buy, and how much you can, the whole 9 yards. You're not going to be able to
yeah,
do anything. And then, of course, they're going to tell you the people you got, well, gold and silver. And I'm like, gold and silver? No, 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 no. First off, you ain't going to be allowed to use your gold and silver because you'll go to jail trying.
well, I'll do what they did in the 30s. I'll say it's
They'll make a
illegal
recall
to
on it,
own
yes.
gold.
They make a recall on it and say it's illegal to use.
Yeah,
That's another Ponzi scam that people fall right down the rabbit hole in. I can
yeah.
see them, man, because you still got people right now pushing gold and silver. This is the only tangible valuable you're going to have when they go digital. Oh, yeah, all right, yeah, just try that and see how that works out for you. Uh-huh.
Yep.
Because nobody stood up to do anything about it. I mean, how can I say anything other than this? For years, I've spoke out of both ends, dating scene arena and NWO. I linked the dating scene arena right back to NWO because that's who created all the division to begin with. Okay? And then we're not even going to talk about the super vaginas out here that play into it and help to keep the problem alive and make it worse forever the man. We don't have to go into the sports arena, the very first one that set the mindset of competing against each other. Because that mindset from the sport arena of competing against each other also went straight over to the workplace and straight into the dating scene.
Yep.
So this is the reality is as long as we continue to compete against one another, we will always lose. Because especially now, there should be no competing against each other. You should be standing together and you should be simply standing down and saying no compliance on massive numbers all over the world. But we're not doing that now, are we? No, no. They said lockdown, you ran home and locked down, didn't you? They said
Yeah.
bend over and take it, you know where? You bet right on over and took dry entry, didn't you?
Without lube.
That's right. That's why I said took dry entry, didn't you? You just
Yeah,
enjoyed the
without
hell
lube.
out of just being order followers, order followers, order followers. How competing against somebody else, Peter, because I got to make more of a man-made thing than Peter makes so that I can be above Peter. And he wants to make more than I make so he can be above me. There's your
Yeah.
mentality.
Yep. And the one of the things I've been just for the new guys coming along, I've been trolling the women a little bit and trolling the guys who supported the women. And one of the things I've been saying to guys in Australia is people are going broke, right? Because they can't go to work. They're locked down. They can't go to work, and they're getting their universal basic income is basically being moved into this whole scenario. And I'm saying to these guys, I bet you're really glad you saved your money and didn't support a guy like me, just enough for food and rent so that I could oppose your criminals and government. I bet you're really glad you kept that money in your pocket. But hey, the government just took it out. Like literally, the government has taken, for most guys in Australia, a good slice of them, they've lost tens of thousands of dollars in income, right? And they're getting handed their universal basic income back and just getting by enough to eat. And there's big long queues for people to go get their money and apply and blah blah blah. And I'm saying to them, I bet you're really glad you saved that few dollars that could have helped me to buy food and pay rent while I was trying to take these guys on in your government. Bet you're really glad about that. But you know the government's got you every which way to sunrise because you know they're just gonna the police and the armed services are going to back them and they're just going to take stuff off you or throw you in jail.
That's exactly it. They're gonna take everything away from you. You're not gonna be allowed to do anything. They're gonna do all kinds of nasty stuff. But I've been telling people for a while now that you better start getting yourself ready, and people should have already been doing this. Okay, because there's going to be food shortages. You're not going to the store and buying some food. You're going to find out there's going to be food shortages everywhere.
Oh yeah,
You're going
there's
to
going to be a
walk in there.
shortage of
You're
food
going to
and
walk
water.
into empty shelves and you're going to panic. And it'll be actually stupidity of people for not paying attention to what's going on.
It'll be more than just toilet paper that they run out of at the
Oh
store.
yeah. Well, there wasn't. The only reason the stores were out of toilet paper is because the government put a freaking hold on it. They shut down the supply line, is what they did. There was never a shortage in toilet paper. It was sitting in warehouses off access, not accessible to the public because your owners said you couldn't have any.
Well, down in Australia, there was people like literally people going out of the supermarket with a trolley full of nothing but toilet paper. And I'm like, I mean, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? You need 2 years supply of toilet paper. And there was a guy in Australia who set up a business just buying and reselling toilet paper. Made a ton of money just buying and reselling toilet paper.
Well, I can see it. There were people doing that. They got right in there before the shelves were empty and bought up as much as they could. Then they went through limits, and you still got food that in shelves that are empty in stores, and people ain't paying attention. It's because the government is deliberately, okay, don't ship this. We're not going to ship this to the stores for a while, but we'll ship it over here. Okay, but over here where we're shipping it, we're not going to ship that. We'll ship that over here. They're
Yeah,
toying with the people, is what they're doing.
yeah. You're going to have as you get more and more civil unrest, you're going to have less and less food, and then it'll eventually affect the water supply, right?
It will.
Well, there'll be saboteurs of the water supply and things like
Well,
that.
you got that, and then you're going to have power outages everywhere because that's also planned.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, they can't keep the lights on in California anymore, can they?
Well, but see, that unfortunately, when you look deep into it, you find out that the Rothschild, believe it or not, it's Rothschild. They actually own in America. I'm not talking about any other country because I could not answer that. Okay. But in America, they actually own all the utility companies, gas and lights, across this entire country. Don't matter what the name is, it's owned by them. Okay.
Yeah,
And in
yeah,
my, for all my life growing up, I watched electric companies out here all the time trimming trees away from wires, trimming trees away from wires. Because we know what trees and branches do to electric lines, right?
yep.
So I'm rolling around this town here after the power outage, and freaking I was without power for just about 4 days. Okay, before it come back on, and there was still a lot of people out even longer than that. There was people out a couple of weeks because it literally wiped the freaking power out almost in this whole town. Well, I started looking and I noticed hell they ain't trimmed. I mean, further where I'm living here, Well, you got power lines running right through the middle of a tree. It's never been
They
touched.
haven't been trimming the trees.
They haven't been trimming the trees nowhere in this town. Power lines are in trees all over this town. And I said, you think that's good? Let's just wait till we get a nice ice storm in the middle of the winter and the branches become heavy. Oops, there's power outages in the middle of the winter all over town. Oops, bye-bye heat.
Uh, I mean, it's just so blatantly obvious. It's like in Australia when we had the bushfires, they've been mismanaging the forestry burn-offs for decades, and then they blame it on global warming. Oh well, these bushfires are because of global warming. No, it's because you haven't burned off anything for 30 years, really.
Dutch Sense actually caught them. He used to watch Dutch Sense on his weather reports, and he would report.
Mm,
And he was reporting harp rings, and he caught some attention up at the Pentagon back then, several years back.
yeah,
Okay, because he was calling them harp rings from the weather warfare, and he would
yeah,
show an area, and he'd give you a town, a location, and a state, and he would say, in 2 days from now, this type of a storm's going to come through this area, and freaking within that amount of time, wham! Everything he said kept happening, just in order, right? And he got flagged for it. So then what he did is he switched over and he's been doing earthquake reports, right? And
yeah,
earthquake reports. And then he brings up the live radar from the areas where the earthquake happened and zooms in and he uses Google Earth and the radar up. And well, he actually caught in California a laser weapon coming out of the sky,
yeah,
setting the fires. That
yeah,
is
yeah,
military industrial complex. See, there's
yeah.
no do ifs and about it. You don't have the United States burning from California to Washington. Oh, but that's right. It's a smart fire, Peter. You know why it's a smart fire? It knows the Canada border lines right there, and it's not going to go into Canada because it's a smart fire.
Yeah, that's the one I've been hearing the jokes about. There's no fires in Canada. Global warming knows only to burn Washington down to California.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course
Yeah,
you go over. You was in Oregon and stuff, and Colorado has been being
yeah,
hit pretty hard. Okay,
yeah.
they've got the
But
biggest
I've
fires that they've ever had going on,
yeah,
and
but I've seen a few videos where some sort of beam or something is setting off fires. I've seen a couple of videos like that on the internet over the last few months. So no, I don't believe those fires are happening naturally or anything else like that.
no, 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 no. This
Yeah,
is, this is just it. When you look into Agenda 21 and you look deep enough, you realize it's a very long, drawn up plan, and you realize burning the infrastructure. Okay, running people out of areas that are going to be areas that people will no longer be allowed to live in.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. That's
so how are you going to do that? Well, you burn them out and you don't allow them to rebuild.
yeah, yeah.
You
It
force them
sets,
into the farms. What do you mean farms? Well, what do you think a city is? It's a human farm.
yeah. So they'll burn out the places where they don't want people to live. They'll burn up more of the cropland and things like that, and burn up more of the food production, and
Yes.
then there'll be food shortages, and all this stuff's gonna happen.
Well, I
It's
wondered
all
when
gonna
the
happen.
storm first come through here, and that storm had to have been traveling over 200 miles an hour in the sky to reach me in the time it did. Okay, because it was at least 220 miles away on radar when I seen it. And it was here like 50, 55 minutes later. It was in my town. 5, 10 minutes later, it wasn't in my town no more. But we also had trees down all the way across the town. We had power out all the way across the town. Okay, you couldn't even get through major drags because you were doing this to try to go around branches and trees and blah blah. And some streets you said turn and go another way, and the whole town was that way. It took them forever to pick this mess up, and now here I am looking. When the day my power come back on, the electric company come down the alley here, and they were looking up at that line. I was telling you, the lines run right through the middle of that tree. He sat there and he was looking it up and writing shit down on paper. You knew what he was doing. He was charting it. That needs to be taken care of. Well, that was in August. Here we are, and guess what? Nobody's been here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I went down to the city. I had to pay my damn sewer bill down at City Hall. So I nailed him with it. Okay, why are you guys not trimming the trees away from the lines? Well, that's not up to the city. That's up to the electric company. You're going to have to get a hold of Alliant Energy. So I did. And the guy, you could tell he was there, and I says, look, I've been around this town and I've looked. These trees ain't been trimmed in what, 3, 4, 5 years away from these lines. And he says, "Well, no, it's better." And I says, "No, no, 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 no. You ain't gonna convince me that because I already saw it." Well, I'll get a work order put in. And where'd you say this was at? And of course, then we'll get a hold of you before they come out. Oh no, nothing ever happened. Of
Yeah,
course
yeah,
not, because they got their orders and their order followers. You got to follow your order for the tool. You got to have your money right, even if it means in the end, you, your family, and your children, and their children's children have got no future at all. You're going to get everybody dead with your ignorance for greed.
yeah. Well, a limited future. The future is a technotronic slavery system that Mao and Stalin could only dream of. Right.
Yeah.
That's the future. And I don't know. I'm hoping that it's going to take some significant amount of time to arrive, because I'm hoping to be here for a while longer. We shall see. We shall see.
Well,
Yeah.
that's going to be a good question mark. You get people thinking, well, if I leave the United States, go here, and that says you might buy yourself a little bit of time, but do you really want to be alive in a world that's going to be what it's going to be? I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would you want to live in a world that's going to be what it's going to be? You know,
Well,
if
because
you
they'll
ain't
be
got enough,
trained. They'll be trained to love their slavery, right?
yeah, they'll be trained to drop to their knees and suck it and whatever else is told to them, right? Yep.
It'll be a mix between Brave New World and 1984. As long as you're doing everything you're told, you'll get your daily soma, and you'll get your rations. And if you don't do what you're told, you'll get the 1984 side of it. you'll get you'll be taken to the torture chamber, taken to room 101, and shown how to be a good compliant slave, right?
That's basically, or maybe they'll figure that no, nothing we could do with him. Boom. What happened to him?
Oh
He's
yeah.
dead tired right now, can't you tell?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, well, we go
Yeah.
boom when you don't
Yeah.
comply. Now we just say that person's dead tired.
Yeah. Yeah. Just dead tired.
Yeah.
Well, he died of COVID, right?
Oh, that's right. He died of COVID. I forgot. You're right.
He died of COVID. He died of the bug.
He
Yeah.
died of a bug, man. An invisible bug
Yeah.
got him. Hey, how do you like that with Trump? Do you think Trump really got an invisible bug?
Oh, whether he got it or not, I don't really
I just
care. I
had
mean,
to
it
throw that
was
out there. There ain't no way he did because,
it
I
was
don't
a
even believe
great
it
it was a
exists.
great pantomime in any case, right? The scene on the balcony taking his mask off, it was a great show. You got to admit, it's a great TV show. It's reality TV.
Well, that's what you're watching right now. I mean, it's been reality TV all along, and you got old Sloppy Joe versus Mr. Foot in the Face, okay. So the boot that's stomping all over you, trumping you down, and then you got old Sloppy Joe, and I mean, it's a really good combo. I mean, I've seen some similarities because let's think about it this way. Everybody wants to talk about how sick Sloppy Joe is, how the guy is not in good health, and he's got dementia, and he's got this, and he's got that, and it says, did you ever stop to think about, oh, Hillary was in dire health condition too during the run against her cousin? Oh, that's right, because they're cousins, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so you got that going on, and so Hillary was sick as a dog the entire time. As soon as the election was over, she was instant heal. Okay, instant
yeah,
heal. I mean, it's a great fucking miracle cure they have called instant heal that only happens to people like the Clintons, right?
yeah. Well, yeah, you gotta wonder. In the US, for example, there's a lot of people who actually support Biden and actually think that he should be president.
Well, it's
And you
because
and
they're
you still
dumb. It doesn't
and
matter
you still
which one it is anyhow, because what they don't get is I don't care if you want to talk right, left, I don't give a crap. Now, all that's nothing but WWE right in your face, man. I mean, it's Hollywood act in your face. You have one set of people, the elite, telling everybody what to do. Both sides are following the orders. What do you think they created the United Nations for? Because they could bring the puppets from worldwide together. They could make their plans and they could all go home and they're all working together. How do you think they got a worldwide invisible bug? Because they're
yeah,
all in bed together.
yeah. But I just look. I mean, one of the things that's staggering to me is you look at the last two Democrat candidates, Hillary and Biden, and you go, how does anyone justified in their own mind supporting these people, saying, "Yeah, I'm for Hillary, I'm for Biden"? How does anybody actually do that?
I don't know.
Must
I
be.
think it's sort of like we're going to make new candidates, okay? I want to give you Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy. Now, there's your three picks. Which one would you like to kill you?
It's kind of like that. But at least Trump is a character, and at least he's a bit of fun to watch.
Oh, he's a character, all right. Yeah.
One of the I think on the Five this week, the Fox News the Five show, somebody said, "Well, Trump has to win because if Biden wins, there'll be nothing to talk about for the next 4 years. Everything will go back to what the old normal, right?" So they were saying we need Trump to win because we need the ratings to keep going.
Well, there's some things here. There was a symptoms cause. Simpsons have been notorious for having pre-predictive programming in it. Okay,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
they've been notorious for that. Well, did you realize that the Simpsons actually has Trump in a coffin?
Oh, there is a show where Trump becomes president, gets killed. Yeah,
Right. So I was thinking
yeah.
about that, and then you got to, and I had to listen because, like Richie from Boston, I don't totally agree with this, but as freaked and fucked up as things are, there could always be a chance that this could be true. Okay. Richie from Boston seems to think something's going to happen to Trump, and then out of nowhere, Obama's going to show up, and
Oh, could do,
he'll be put back in again.
could do. I mean, if something happens, like if Trump is somehow killed and Obama shows up and tries to take back the presidency, that could be the sort of spark that would start a civil conflict, right?
Yeah.
Now, there'll be a lot of Trump voters, supporters saying, "No, no, 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 we're not going to have that," right? And
Yeah.
that would be the sort of event. An assassination of Trump would be the sort of event that could start a civil
And even
war.
a fake assassination where he just disappears from the public's eyes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the assassination of Trump. I mean, some
Right.
psyop where he
Yeah,
appears to be
exactly.
killed, right?
Where he's supposedly killed off. It won't be a JFK. It'll be a psyop. Okay.
Mm.
I can. There's lots of ways this could go, but I was thinking about that, and I says, they've portrayed this in people's face for so long now, and there's so much out here. I got some stuff up here I hadn't even posted up because it'll probably get ripped down right away. Okay, so I didn't post it up for that reason. But man, there's a lot of suggested things in here that I do believe is probably really true, including the space program and Trump's own mouth. Okay, stuff that he said that lines right up. Okay,
Yeah,
the weapons, like when people seeing lasers come out of the sky. What do they think they've been
yeah,
building up there? They're weapons.
yeah. So something's up there, right?
Yeah.
Some things or some set of things are there, and it's not looking. I mean, at the end of the day, we know where they're headed. We just don't know the mechanisms, the individual mechanisms that are going to be used to get where they want to go. They want the depopulation program done, and they want a digital cashless society. They want you chipped and controlled,
Yep.
and
They
it
want
just,
you to be an
just
android, Peter. You mean you don't mind having a little chip in your head that they can push some buttons on a computer and tell you what you're allowed to think and what you're not allowed to think, and that you'll think the way they want you to think, and you can
yeah.
be a live robot.
Well, they're already talking about health bracelets where you can have a bracelet on your arm and it can record your vital signs, so it can tell you if you've got the bug before you even know, right?
Oh yeah, well
They're
then
talking
you
about
got
they're
they
talking about this stuff.
yeah they've even showed this. Oh my God, this is coming on the market now, and this is called a
Yeah,
bumper. You put this thing around your neck, and it's a little round thing with a light on it. Okay, and when you're approaching somebody, it's in green, and if you get closer than 6 foot, it goes to red. Okay, and then it goes to flashing blue within 2 feet of them. You back up from them, and it goes back to red, and you keep backing up, and it goes back to green. It's so that we can keep our social distancing, so we can be scared of one another. Okay, because really, this is the witness. The thing is, like in Walmart, this is going to be, we got all of our new norms coming in, our new norms. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm witnessing our new norm. Leaving Walmart, okay? I don't wear a mask when I go into Walmart. No, never, ever, ever do I wear a goddamn freaking diaper on my face when I go in. That's why I'm going to give everybody a brand new roll of toilet paper called face wipe. That's right. You need to, after you take the diaper off your face, here's your face wipe, okay? And here's some, maybe you should get some baby wipes, and you could wipe your face with the baby wipe, and then you could take and get your little mini roll of toilet paper, I mean face paper, and you could wipe your face with that so that you're all clean. You wouldn't want people to know that you had.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous, completely ridiculous. But we know where they're headed. It's a case of what's the time frame, what's the timeline, and what are the mechanisms. But the destination is very well and truly known.
Oh, it is, it is, it is. And when you pay attention, I think, well, we know that the United States is the targeted country. So I see the worst stuff happening here first. I think the only reason we've witnessed, like in Australia, okay, United Kingdom, and so on, having other lockdowns already, okay, and even in Australia, what, stopping somebody and drawing blood,
Yeah,
okay, and this stuff's really happening, okay. And I think the only reason it hasn't happened here is because of the stage show that's going on right now. But once that's over, take it to the bank because they're already reporting numbers going up all over the country, and I'm saying, yep, they tested positive for being a human being. Yep.
yeah,
That's a human. We can't have that. It's not a robot yet. It's a human. Yep. That gene was found in their immune system, and they're definitely sick. I mean, because they're a human. Okay, we need to give you a jab so that we can break down that and change you. Okay, that's
yeah,
what we need to do.
yeah. That's they're going to require people to have jabs. They won't make it mandatory, but I don't know if you heard, but just this week or it might have been last week, depending on when you want to call it, there was a minister in the UK government already talking publicly about perhaps they should have some sort of vaccination proof before you're allowed to leave the country, right?
Well,
No
they're talking
international.
about they got a tattoo that they want to literally put on you that does
Yeah.
all this for them. You
Mm.
not only won't be able to leave the country, you won't be able to travel, period. And
Yeah.
they're telling you it won't be mandatory, okay? So let me give you an example of not mandatory. Okay, so Peter and we're not going to take the jab, okay? But don't worry, it's not mandatory. Well, so they cut off all of your income. You're not allowed to go to buy any food. You're not allowed to go to a store. You're not allowed to leave your house without going straight to jail or straight to FEMA camp, okay?
Yeah.
So, because after all, it isn't mandatory. I mean, you don't need to eat, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
don't need no drinks or food, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because
It's
after
get.
all, it isn't mandatory, right?
Yeah. It's going to be not mandatory, but good luck getting along without it, right?
Yeah,
Pretty.
exactly.
And of course, if you don't take it, you're a granny killer. You're killing granny if you don't take
Oh
your
God,
shot,
it'd be like
right?
that gal in Walmart, man. I mean, I got no mask on. She's got her mask. She's got her diaper on her face, and and she had to check my receipt. She said, "Stand back, stand back. You ain't got a mask on. You'll make me sick." And I was like, "Hold on. You got a mask on, and I'll make you sick." Yeah, you can make me sick. Huh? Shows your brains don't really work right, does it? Because if I can make you sick through your mask, then that means obviously your mask ain't working, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've seen all the Karens come out and demanding people wear masks, and in the UK they actually started a inform on your neighbour program if they were having too many people over to the house and things like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it ain't just
it's
UK. They
ridiculous.
done that here because I was watching Governor Reynolds out of Iowa, the puppet. And when you look up her last name, her family's amongst the 13 families. Yeah, that last name is
Okay.
amongst the 13 families of bankers. So
Reynolds.
Miss Reynolds over there, okay. So Miss Reynolds, our governor, she has human services, a representative for Human Services get up and speak. Well, that was all part of freaking the Crimson Fantasia. Okay, Department of Human Services was involved in that. Okay, they've been involved all along. And this
Yeah, yeah,
gal gets up there who's representing Iowa Human Services, and then she's talking and all this shit, and then she comes up and says, "If you see something, say something." She says, furthermore, if you hear any argument or any kind of noise coming from your neighbors, okay, don't be afraid to call and say something. Then she turns around and says, "Well, I feel sorry for the children and the elderly." She says at a time of lockdown, there's lots of elderly and children trapped in their home with their perpetrator.
yeah.
So there you go. I mean, okay, hold on. There's lots of children and elderly trapped in their home with the perpetrator. Okay, yeah, right. You want to tell me
Yeah,
another
that's
joke?
those bad men. That's those
That's I was just going to
toxic
say that.
men.
Yep, that would actually equal bad men, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Trotted out time and time again all across the Western world.
I love that. Okay, they didn't like what we said, so they disconnected the OBS studio and reconnected it.
Okay, it went out.
It went out and then come back on.
Okay,
Okay, so I guess they didn't like our conversation too well. So what can I
that's
say?
life. Real time censorship.
Yep, that was real time, lifetime censorship. I just watched it. It kicked completely out, and that freaking box come up the corner. We've been disconnected from the OBS studio, really, and then it came back up, reconnected successively.
Mm.
So there's your hint, hint. Be careful about what you're talking about, guys, because we're listening.
Yeah, yeah. Gonna be more of that. More of all these sorts of things. More of all these sorts of things.
Yes, there is a whole lot more.
Yeah. In the end, it's going to be. In the end, it's going to be very difficult to have any conversation, any sensible, useful conversation in public. Pretty much.
That's pretty much what it comes down to. You know, I mean, what they want us to do is come up here, Peter, and report the official narrative.
Yeah, yeah.
If
They
we
want the.
report the official lie, I mean, the official truth, okay, then no problem, we'll leave you alone. But if you
Yeah.
start talking about them conspiracy theories, okay, yep, and even in the dating arena, I don't know, that might be a conspiracy theory because, Peter, we know that all men are vile, evil predators, rapists, and murderers, and we all abuse women because, it was just, you were born to abuse a woman, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's in our blood. Nothing we can do. It's unconscious sexism. We're unconscious misogynists.
That's what it is. We're unconscious. There you go. That would be the answer. Yep.
Unconscious misogyny. Yeah.
So what
But
happens when the woman's the one doing the? Is that unconscious on us, or that? No, that's right. We're not supposed to notice that, right?
oh well, no, you deserved it. If the woman's being violent towards you, you obviously said something to upset her, and you deserve it.
Oh,
Right?
okay. So so we deserve it.
That's how that goes. Yeah.
Okay.
You deserve it.
Right.
Obviously, all women are angels, and they would never hit a man or do anything to a man unless he actually deserved it. Right. That's how that goes.
Yeah.
This is just going to continue on. I was just thinking something. I lost my train of thought for a second. I'll think of it again in a minute. Oh yeah, that's right. I was it's gone again. Lost that train of thought again. I'll get it back in a minute. But it's just it's just going to continue on.
Oh, it is.
Continue on. Get worse. Be more pandemics. And the next one might actually kill a few people. Kill a few more people.
Yeah,
rather than having to report the car accident. A guy crashes his car and dies in a car accident, but he tests positive for COVID, so that's a COVID death. Well, we'll have a little bit less of that in the future. we'll actually have people really dying in
That's
the
right.
future.
And it'll still be the same name. It'll still be the same name. It'll be the
Yeah,
invisible bug. I mean, and yeah, Dean's correct. I mean, the dating scene is lost, it's gone, and there's no point in worrying about a dating scene right now when you're not going to be alive very long to enjoy anything anyhow. And I don't know why you'd want to bring children into the world right now. I think that would be a very irresponsible decision on your side because what are you giving to your children? What has your children got to look forward to, really, honestly?
yeah. I mean, putting out the line, don't get married, don't have kids. It's not worth it to young men. And if you look at what's coming, you're bringing children into the world at this particular point in time with what's coming doesn't look like a very good idea to me. Doesn't look like a very good
No,
idea.
it doesn't. To me, it don't seem favorable. I would to say anymore. I get to a point where I say, why would you want to get in a committed relationship with anybody right now when you don't even know how to treat one another? Okay, you
Yeah,
don't know how to treat one another. You want to get even with her, and then she's gonna get mad and want to get even with you. Okay, and otherwise, what else she's gonna do? Oh, that's right. Okay, all these simps out here. Yep, you're gonna be treated like a complete piece of dirt. I don't know why you want to take a hammer and beat yourself in the head. I just don't understand the philosophy behind that. It's not
yeah,
worth it no more because nobody knows how to treat each other. You're all busy playing games for your own selfishness. And right now, with what's coming in society, well, that's a lost cause too, isn't it? Because you don't want to know
yep,
about that neither, right? You're going to get mad at me if I lie to you. But then if I tell you the truth, you're going to be mad at me because you don't want that neither.
yeah. It's not looking pretty. It's not looking pretty. But at least, I'm hoping that it's a relatively long runway. That it'll take a while to get through all this.
Well,
But we shall
like I
see.
told Harry, I says, I feel that he's a little bit safer than I am, where his location is, okay? I'm in the targeted countries, so, And even where you're at, Peter, might be a little bit safe, but don't worry, you're not safe. I don't believe anybody's safe in this time right now. But I think your location, if you're in another country outside of where I'm at, you might have a little bit more time than I'll have. But I really
Yeah,
don't care anyhow because I'm already dying anyhow. So what are you gonna do? Kill me? So what?
yeah. Things are going to move at different paces in different places, right? And what young guys say to me, what advice would you have for me? And I say, well, my advice is to make sure that when the depopulation program arrives where you used to be, you're somewhere else. you know, make sure when it arrives where you used to be, you are somewhere else. Because if the depopulation program arrives where you are, then it might be difficult for you to escape it, right?
I think we need to find. I don't know where it's at. I don't know if you can find it, but if you find it, I want you to find that spaceship and pick me up on the way by. And if
yeah,
I find it,
yeah.
I'll find it. You can send me the coordinates, and I'll pick you up on the way by.
Yeah, yeah. Get me a taxi off this planet. This is going just too crazy right now.
Yeah, I know. And I like to have Star Trek Enterprise. We can go on a 20-year mission to explore and seek new worlds and look at that globe down there and say, "What's going on down there?" Sure glad we're not there.
Yeah, that'd be nice. If the spaceship Enterprise turned up, I'd take my chances.
I think so too, man. Beam me
Mm.
up, Scotty. That's
Yeah,
where
beam
I'll
me up,
be.
Scotty. There's no intelligent life down here.
I don't know how I got here, man. We must have crashed in the wrong place.
Oh
All I
yeah,
could find down here is zombies.
it's amazing. And I mean, even now the simps are simping to the women. One of the things that's been amazing during this whole shutdown process has been OnlyFans, and the rate at which OnlyFans has exploded, and these simps throwing money at these chicks on OnlyFans. It's like, oh come on, guys, that's what you want to do with your money? Throw money at women on OnlyFans. This is what you think you should be doing with your life, right?
That's exactly
But
what they think
that's
they should be doing.
exploded. OnlyFans has exploded. There was that chick, some Disney actress chick, opened up an OnlyFans account, and she got pledges for $2 million in the first week. Like that was her monthly subscription pledge from the Sims was $2 million a month, and it only took 2 weeks to get there.
Oh
And you're
God,
like,
you know how hard of a life she must really have now.
yeah, yes, life is so tough.
Is that
So,
sort of like all
uh,
these simps that bought the bathwater?
yeah, yeah.
I
Well, yeah,
tell
that
you,
was just
that was
one
unreal how this gal could get up there and actually sell little bottles
bath.
of her bathwater. You could tell that it wasn't bathwater. It was too clear to be bathwater unless you didn't clean up, period, right? Okay?
Yeah,
But that's not the point. If it was really bathwater, why the hell would anybody buy a little bottle for $10, a little dinky bottle? But she got all kinds of business, didn't she?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I wanted to tell you. This joke in a YouTube comment this week. This woman comes in. They're always coming in there. They're so caring, and they're so sad for you that you've been criminally abused for 13 years, etc., etc. They're always starting out with that line, right? And I basically said, "Don't give me that rubbish. You women like being able to do this, etc." And she says, "Well, if you've really been criminally abused, you could just call the police and they take care of it." And I wrote back to her and said, "It must be such a lovely world to live in that when somebody commits a crime against you, you can call the police and they'll actually do something and help you. That must be a really lovely world. Not the world us men live in, by the way,
Oh,
but it
but
must be
don't
a really
worry,
lovely world for you to
don't
live in."
worry, Peter. You know that's about to come to an end. What's going to be
Oh,
happening
yeah,
here in
that's
the
coming to an end. Yeah.
not too long away? You're going to do something, and they're going to pick up the phone and call the police, and ain't nobody showing up. You're going to call again, and ain't nobody showing up. And ain't nobody showing up. What? Well, of course, there ain't nobody
Yeah.
showing up.
Yeah, well, that's already starting to happen in a few places. In some areas of the UK, the police are no longer responding to break and enters and things like that. Just because they're too busy arresting people for Twitter posts.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's sort of like the protest that went on all summer long. I mean, you had to worry about getting the invisible enemy, okay? But you were safe if you was in a protest. You could be butt to butt close together. You could touch each other, walk right side by side, butt to butt close together. You didn't have to wear a diaper on your face or anything
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
you know, the invisible bug knew you were having a protest and left you alone.
yeah.
Okay?
If it was a Black Lives Matter peaceful protest, then that was okay. Guess the bug knew not to attack you,
And it's just
not to
right. It's
infect you.
like going into a restaurant. When I here a couple months ago when I was up in Colorado, um, we went into a cafe that I haven't been in years. His name was Everopen, okay? And I used to go in there when I was young and I was living there. And I would get me a Longhorn, which is basically two beef patties with chili over the top on the buns and cheese, tomato, onions, and so on. Okay, it would come with fries. So we went in there, and everywhere in that state, everywhere you go, you see people with a diaper on their face, people with a diaper on their face. Any business you go in that state, you better have the diaper on your face. And when you go into the restaurant, you had to have a diaper on your face. To go into the restaurant, you had to have a diaper on your face. When you sat down, you could remove the diaper. But if you had to go to the bathroom, that means you were standing up. You had to put the diaper back on. And I says, oh, it's a smart bug. It knows that you're sitting down eating, so it won't bother you there.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a good meme with all these scientific calculations, etc., etc., and it had a person sitting at a table and a person standing up, and the meme was science proves the bug can't get you when you're sitting down. That was, and it was a good meme. It's exactly what you're talking about. It was a good meme, but it was the fact that it had all these calculations and things like that, and then it
Yeah,
says
to try to
science
make it
says,
look all sophisticated like it would be real. But what
yeah,
the only
yeah,
thing real about it is it shows how completely out of how completely out of your mind you are.
oh yeah,
Okay. Then
yeah,
I'm hearing some other people, and I've been hearing this around the net. Okay. And even Richie from Boston will say this that there is no such thing as an airborne pathogen or virus. Okay. That viruses come from within the body. There's nothing airborne. That's a complete fraud, he says. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. and I can back it because I actually lived it. Okay. I went to a friend's house I hadn't seen in a few weeks. His name was Gary. Okay. And I knocked at the door and his brother answered. I stepped in. He said, "Yeah, Gary's here." And Gary come around the corner on the other side of the living room out of the hallway, and he looked at me and says, "I wouldn't stay here if you were you." And his brother says, "Yeah, he's right." He says, "I got real sick, and then Gary got it right behind me." And I said, "Oh, okay." Gary says, "When I'm feeling better, I'll come over." And I left. I never even left the doorway. Okay. Turned around,
Yeah.
walked back out the door. The very next morning, I was sick as a damn dog. And my roommate, Daryl, says to me, "I ain't got to worry about it. I got a strong immune system." And the very next morning, he was sick.
Yeah.
So don't
Yeah.
tell me there's no such thing as an airborne pathogen. That's a complete crock of shit because, yes, there is. I literally got bronchitis from across the room and only being in there, or maybe 2 minutes at tops. My roommate got the very same thing, and that was the round of bronchitis that gave me my hyperextended lungs. That damn shit almost killed my ass. That's how bad I got. And
Yeah.
that was from what? An airborne pathogens that people don't want to believe is real. They are real.
Yeah, there's a number of ways that these things get transmitted, and I'm really not believing much of what the doctors are saying anymore. I haven't believed much of what the doctors have said for 25 years.
It's
Because
hard. It's hard. I mean, when I come down here to my hometown, and our first one of the doctors here, the first guy they sent me for a heart doctor was a joke. Okay, and then I walked out. He actually walked out of the room on me. He basically, the doctor said, "You can go back to your primary doctor," and got up right in the middle of the freaking and never even did anything. Walked out of the room. He was mad at me because I dared to say I'd done some research and found this out, and he knew more than me, you know. So, "You're the doctor?" "No, I'm not the doctor. I'm telling you what I found on a legit medical website, and I'm telling you what happened up in Minnesota and what I was told at the clinic then. And I don't give a shit what any of them people said up there." Okay, blah, blah, blah. And he got up and walked out of the room, right? So I come home and I called the freaking administration and ripped their freaking ass over his behavior. And they switched me to the other heart doctor. This guy's last name is Rashid. He's a foreign doctor, but he's a hell of a lot better than that other guy was. He even
yeah,
put the heart doctor in Minnesota to shame. This guy's a pretty good doctor. So I got two foreign doctors that outdo the doctors in America, just like that. They're actually pretty good doctors. The only thing is they're working for a corrupt system.
yeah.
But
Well, a lot of the medicine they're taught is false.
it is, it is. It's false.
So
It's,
you know,
they're taught lies when they go to like anybody else. That's why they call it. When you went to school as a kid, you was going through the dumbing down process. When you get of age and you go to college now to get a career, you're being dumbed up because you're only going to be taught what they want you to know and nothing more.
yeah, yeah. And you get licensed, and if you start to buck the system, then they de-license you, and that takes away your income stream.
Yeah.
That's how that works for all those guys.
Which is right back to what I talked about the other day, the tool, which is money.
Yeah,
Okay? If it wasn't for the tool, they would have never gotten where they got. How do you
yeah,
think they got where they got? You got all these paid agents, employees of the establishment on YouTube, everywhere, okay? All over the internet, okay? And then you got all of these so called corporations, which you want to call governments, I'll just call them corporations, okay? Who are all working for 13 families. They're all in bed together. None of this is an accident. I mean, I suppose you could say it just happened to be an accident out of Wuhan, and it would be Wuhan's fault. No, no, no.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, none of this is believable anymore. It's like whatever is being said by whatever quote authority figure, none of it's believable anymore because there's so much out there that is lies that it's like, okay, well, you're telling me something else. Unless I've got a way to verify it myself, I'm not just going to believe it off the cuff because there's just
unfortunately,
too
you're
many
right.
lies out there.
You're right. You
Yeah,
cannot believe things off the cuff because you have to look into stuff. And if you don't look into it, And if you've done enough homework in your life, as I have, you pretty much see through the shit before the shit's ever said. Okay, you see right through it, and you pretty much know. Okay, you might want to go look for what the narrative is, or which way they're going to bring what you knew was coming in. Okay, but you ain't got to do much more than that, and you'll catch your liars. Okay, you know, I for years I've been told this about Richie from Boston over and over by many people, that he's a shield, he's an agent, he's an employee of the establishment. He could be, but I decided, what the fuck, let's go check this guy out, because I never looked at anything this guy ever did. Didn't even know what he looked like, right?
Mm.
So, okay, let's go check this guy out and see. Okay, I'll judge it myself instead of let somebody else judge it for me, okay? Well, I've been watching him for about a little over 3 months now. And, well, so what I come up with from watching him, oh, really? Okay, hold on, let's get this over here. What I come up from watching him is, nah, I think the guy's quite real. I don't think he's working for the establishment at all. Now say, yeah, but he's traveling all the time. Yeah, but you don't know the guy's past or his history. You know nothing about him. Maybe he has some rental properties and that's where he's getting what he's using to travel. Maybe he got an inheritance from family and he bought some rental properties. You don't know the first thing about the guy's personal life. But I can tell I'm really pretty good with body language, okay? That's something I'm really pretty good with. And I can pretty much tell you Richie from Boston most likely is as real as Peter is, or I am. And he's getting very angry, and I don't blame him, okay? And, well, if you pay attention, they took down his big channel. They took down another channel and another channel on him. He's creating 3 and 4 channels at a time to just try to stay up. That don't sound like an agent to me. And my
Yeah.
the body language tells me he's not.
Yeah, the guys that have had channel after channel after channel taken down are generally the honest guys.
Yeah.
Not all of
Okay.
them, but generally they're the honest guys. I mean, somebody was saying to me the other day, I was saying that I've been at this for 12 years. You know, how can you be at this for 12 years and have just 1,000 subs? I said, well, this is my 7th channel.
Well, you got
Right?
that. You got that, and then you got like myself. I've been up here just short about right around 14 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and I can tell you right now, even myself, that my subs, when I do nothing on my channel, they'll grow. If I post a live stream or a video, I lose 4 or 5 subs right after doing it. Every time. They will take the subs away. When I
Yeah, yeah.
shut my mouth, they'll let them slowly grow again. Then I open my mouth and down they go. And then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
wonder why my channel has small numbers. It's because they're watching everything I do. They're on my ass. It's not an accident that I had military outside my door putting a green light through my window. It's not an accident that my Skype signal got scrambled by something nobody else's digital and it was scrambled with analog. And it's not an accident that I lost the job that Peter knows all about. Believe me,
Yeah.
he was here. He's the guy that actually scared the fuck out of the manager down there for me. He was good. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, Peter's got a lot better than what people want to give him credit for.
Yeah, but this is what's going on. They're just going to keep shutting you down, keep shutting you down, keep shutting you down. You keep censorship, censorship, censorship
Yeah.
until the narrative just becomes normalized. I mean, the big story this week of blocking the New York Post with a post on the Twitter feed. They've locked the Twitter account of the New York Post. They locked the Twitter account, the personal Twitter account of Katie, is it Katie or Kayleen McEnany or whatever her name is, the White House press secretary. I'm like, you're locking the Twitter account of the 4th largest circulation newspaper in the country. Don't try and tell me this is not censorship. And that's just insane. It's insane to be locking those accounts because it's just like, yeah, okay, well, uh, the censorship is real, right? Everybody's been talking
It's
about the
quite
censorship.
real.
The censorship is quite real, but it's ridiculous.
And
And
it's
Marky,
against truth. That's just
yeah,
it. When you tell real truth, you get attacked.
Yeah.
You get
Well,
shut up and censored. If I come
yeah.
up here and spill propaganda, fluff and stuff, if Peter comes up here and puts propaganda and fluff and stuff, they'll leave us alone.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we'd actually not only they wouldn't leave us alone, they'd promote our channel. We'd be in suggested lists, and
Oh yeah,
we get
that too.
we
We'd
get
be actually be
subs.
promoted.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd
we'd
actually
actually
get
would
subs.
be
Yeah.
actively promoted.
I mean,
I mean,
right now, to get subs, here's the way you're gonna do it. You're either gonna be a really hot blonde freaking female, and there you can be dumb as a box of rocks, and you'll have all kinds of subs because everybody will be lusting for you. Okay, or you can be dumb as a box of rocks, and they will let you go, and you can just move right on up there. But if you got one critical thinking skill in your head and you use it, it's over with.
yeah, it certainly is now. It certainly is now. The censorship is just very, 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 very rampant now. I mean, when you're starting to censor newspapers, it's so ridiculous. The other thing I like this week, the big story of the week is Hunter Biden laptop, etc., etc. There's all this stuff coming out about that, and it's like, no, we don't. Oh, that's just disinformation. We don't want to talk about that. But for 4 years, it's been Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion, with zero evidence. I mean, Mueller spent how much money? 30 million or something else like that, and not a zot of evidence. But we had to investigate for 2 years, etc., etc. Oh,
Zero
Hunter Biden,
evidence. You're correct. That's what it always is, right?
yeah, Hunter Biden's laptop. Oh, well, let's ignore that. Let's ignore that. That's just disinformation. It's like, yeah, there's photos on there of him sniffing cocaine off a young woman's backside. Right. This is not probably the best look you want for the son of the to be president, etc. And it was all going on during this stuff was all going on when Biden was VP. Right.
Yeah,
It's insane. It's clown world. It is completely insane.
it is. People are out of their damn minds all the way across the board, man. And they freaking, and it's. I feel sorry for a lot of people for the young guys. I mean, the really young guys because they don't know anything other than the lie because of their age.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so in their perceptions, this is what it must be.
And this is normal.
Yeah,
This is normal. Yeah,
when this is not what it is. They don't
yeah,
realize, because steadily, come on, they were lying when I was a kid. This shit was going on when I was a kid.
yeah.
Okay. And then Peter right behind me. It was going on when he was a kid. Okay. And of course, I didn't see it then. Peter didn't see it then. We went on and had our lives. Okay. But then as we got older and a little more awareness amongst us, we started seeing things. I think Peter's biggest awakening was the divorce court and what actually took place that made him so mad.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was with him for his anger because I understood it totally. And a lot of people was like they couldn't understand it. Like, oh well, Peter's a very angry man. Well, if you had what happened to you, what happened to him, happened to you, you'd be a very angry man too.
Yeah. Well, we're at the stage now. I'm talking with women on Parler, right? Because they can't kick me off, and they're all very angry that they can't kick me off. They're trying, right? They're constantly telling Parler that I should be kicked off Parler, and Parler's saying no. But now we're now in my personal case, we're now 13 years down the track of my wife committing perjury, right? That's a long time. It's not a short period of time. So 13 years down the track of my wife committing perjury, because I stood up to it, I'm still politically persecuted. And
Yep.
there's not a single woman who's willing to stand up in the public and say, we should stop this. This is not okay. Not because he's a man or she's a woman, etc., but it's just not okay to commit perjury and then sue the government after some guy for the next 13 years. That's just not okay. We shouldn't do that, right? There's still not a woman. There's still not a single woman who stood up in the public and said that.
Yeah. Well, you're not going
And
to get that because, unfortunately, for the majority of them, I'm sorry, but everything's in their favor.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing's in your favor, and they don't give a fuck about you. Excuse my language, but they don't. I mean, the reality is we live in a world where women love women, men love women. Okay, women hate men, and men hate men.
Yeah,
That is the
pretty
world
much.
we live in.
Pretty much.
Yep. In a nutshell, that's the real truth. Whether if you like it or not, I don't give a flying F if you don't like it. It is the truth.
Yep. And the few guys like you and me who actually care about our fellow man and stand up and try and do something about that. Oh, we're hated by men as much as we're hated by women, right?
Oh, you got that right. Yep. But I got used to being hated on. I got used to being attacked, and you know, and that's the reality. I shut down the live stream that I was doing once a week. Okay, I shut that down. I don't know, a couple 3 months ago. I keep having people want me to bring it back up, but I have no intentions of bringing it back up. What for?
Yeah,
You mean what
what's
for?
one of the issues nowadays is what's there left to say? Like really, what's there left to say? We can comment on the news of the day and we know where things are going. But other than that, what's there left to say? There's not that much left to discuss.
I'm sorry. There's no point in bringing that back up. What for? What, so I can keep repeating myself and I can watch none of you care, none of you care enough? Yeah, well, you can't even get the manosphere to stand together. And if you can't get the manosphere to stand together, even though you're all going through similar problems, then you don't give a crap, neither do I.
Yeah.
I brought Jane on the show and pissed y'all off, didn't I, huh? Because I put a woman on the show. How dare you bring a woman into this, blah, blah, blah. We said what was going to happen before it happened, and everything I freaking called that was going to happen before it happened. You all did it. You all proved me right. Only took you 15 minutes to say everything I knew you were going to say. It was pretty awesome. You did everything I knew you were going to do. Then later on, you did accept Jana finally. Okay. But the point is I love bucking the system. It's no accident that men and women are divided. And the only way you could ever beat the establishment is you'd have to bring the genders back together again. Then you'd have to be willing to stand up. Well, good luck on that
Yeah, yeah, that's
one.
it. Good luck. Like literally, good luck.
Yeah.
I did a radio show with some guys in Chicago on Friday night Chicago time, right? So it's recorded on Friday nights, and then they put it out a couple of days later. That was a long show; it's like 5 hours, etc. But one of the guys, there's four guys there, and one of the guys there is saying, he wants to get married and have kids, and he said, what's my advice in that direction? And I said, well, my public advice is don't get married, don't have kids. It's not worth it. And the first thing out of his mouth was, well, if we don't have kids, the human race will die off. And I'm like, that's such a weak argument because if you personally don't have kids, there's 7 billion people out there. They're fine.
Well, have
Uh,
you, I would have to say to him, have you looked around you? Oh, obviously you haven't. Did you know the birth rates have fallen in every single country around the world? There ain't one country on the face of this planet that's at replacement level. The birth rates are that low. Why do you suppose they got there? Oh, that's right. They got there because we divided the genders. You're
yeah.
all fighting with each other, okay? And then, of course, we've got GMO foods and we have all this freaking big farm and everything in between that also helped to make sure that people wasn't able to get each other, pregnant. So, when you divide the genders and nobody knows how to treat each other, and you got women married to the government, and you women using the court system to rip and rape freaking impoverage, and you got men using women. That's really what you got is you got a usury system because today's society is really literally nothing about usury. That's all it's about. It's about what can we get from this person. Okay, that's it. We'll lie and use the words to get our want. As soon as we got our want, we're gonna throw you away. You think
Yeah.
that MGTOW made mainstream media because it was blah blah blah? No, that was no accident. They put MGTOW on mainstream media for one reason only: to destroy MGTOW. Because that was the only real threat that they saw that was taken literally Literally, if men would have taken that by millions, literally for real, and walked away, you would have forced the female's hand, and she would have had to stop and think, and that would have brought the genders back together again. So they had to take it mainstream so they could slaughter it. And it was right after mainstream did their thing that we started seeing pump and dump come up. Okay? Well, what does pump and dump do? It keeps the genders divided.
Yep. Yep. But my view of all that is the women are getting what they deserve, because there was plenty of us who stood up and told the women, you need to stop doing this through the divorce courts, because if you keep it up, men are going to get pissed, and men are going to walk away. Men are going to get angry. Some men are even going to kill you, but most men are just going to walk away, right?
Yeah, well, that would
And
be true. And I'm not going to argue with you on that because for the women who want to continue the behavior, you're going to get what you got coming to you.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, one of the questions I like to ask. There was a case in Australia in, I think it was February or March, where this woman did the whole normal travesty of things to the man. And so he literally poured petrol over her and her kids, because we know they're not his kids, and he burned them all to death in the middle of the road in the middle of the day, right? So that was a pretty loud statement that guy made of, I don't like the way that you're treating me. And it was like the number one news item for the whole week in Australia. And my question I'm asking women over on Parler is, how many more women and children do men need to pour petrol over and burn to death before you personally will sit on a jury for a woman criminal? And they just hurl abuse at you. They won't answer the question. They'll just hurl abuse at you.
No, they're going to
And I
hurl
say,
abuse and they're going to go around it because, see, not to be mean, but on a reality level, in today's society, men and women alike want nothing to do with responsibility.
yep, yep,
Everybody's dodging responsibility. And for the women, well, by God, if you try to hold this corrupt woman responsible, here comes all of these white knights, these Naginas, to the rescue of this corrupt female. Okay, and what does that do for her? That tells her it must be all right for me to do this to people because look at all these guys that says it's okay for me. And
yeah.
so what
Look
does
at
she
all the
do?
support I get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she gets all that support. So what does it do? Swells her head and she continues to behavior.
yeah. Continues to do it. I mean, one of the things I've been saying to women on Parler is, if women got the same punishment as men, if women got the same sentence for men for the same crime, this woman would be in jail and the three kids would be happily living with their father. But the fact that everyone supported the woman and allowed her to criminally abuse this man, all five of them are dead, right? And the difference was, you supported the criminal woman. And if you didn't support the criminal woman, the five of them would be alive. She'd just be in jail for a while for her perjury and her slander and her lies, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. It's that simple. And women get all upset when I say that. I say, well, look, these five. This is a good example because it's the most horrific murder suicide that's happened in the country so far, but it won't be the last. And it's just like, you let this woman destroy this man's life and you supported her. And even after he killed everyone, you're still blaming him and elevating her, despite the fact she was the criminal in this situation.
They are. They literally are.
And the women continue to support the criminal woman and continue to abuse the now dead man. And that's it. It basically comes down to that. And so the women are not giving that up in any way, shape, or form. And it's been 13 years in my own personal experience. It's been 13 years, and you can't find a woman who says, yeah, well, maybe perjury, maybe we shouldn't support perjury. Maybe false rape allegations we shouldn't support. Maybe false allegations of pedophilia we shouldn't support. Maybe we should actually punish the women who are going around lying. Maybe we should do that. There isn't one. Like, there isn't even one,
No,
right?
you're not going to find it, okay? Because people have been so freaking brainwashed and are so desperate. Men are so desperate. And how do they think they got there? Because you didn't stand up for yourself to begin with. And then
Yeah.
society said that if you stood up for yourself against a woman, you were a villain. How dare you? I mean, society literally over the last 30 plus fucking years says the woman can stand up to a woman all day long and the woman can stand up to a man. A man can stand up to another man, but if the man stands up to a woman, and I'm not talking about punching her or hitting her or doing any physical harm, I'm just saying simply standing up for yourself, you're going to be attacked and it's going to be relentless. And then you're going to be ostracized.
Yep. They're going to destroy your ability to earn your income,
And then you
basically.
wonder how we got where we're at, huh? So NWO, I mean, but that is the root cause. And people don't understand. That's why I said no. NWO and the dating scene, the core of NWO, like a pear has a core, an apple has a core. Okay, the core of NWO is the dating arena.
Yeah, it's a division. It's a creation
It
of
is.
division, and it's the oldest trick in the book is divide and conquer. That's the oldest trick in the book.
It is, and it's worked, hasn't it? It worked wonders with it.
It worked really well with the women, right?
Yeah, and a
And
lot of men too, because all these white knights and simps. I mean,
they supported it.
that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to this woman on Parler, and we're talking about male suicide, right? And she's saying, "Oh, I'm really sorry about the men killing themselves." And I'm like, don't even try these lies on us, right? Don't even try these lies. You're not sorry. You don't care when men kill themselves because nobody cares when men kill themselves. Just well, what about their family? And I said, not even their. I said, when a man kills himself, not even his own father or brothers or sons will give a shit about him. And I said to her, when I was suicidal in April 2008, my father, my brothers, my sons, and all my male cousins, they were all fine with that. And they've all been fine with me being criminally abused for 13 years. And what was the next thing out of her mouth? Well, you must have done something wrong. Not all people would be against you. Not all your family would be against you if you hadn't done anything wrong. Well, thank
That
you.
that is not how it works. You want to know how
Yeah.
it works? I can tell you how it works. It works really easy. If you're married for a number of years, all the family, all the friends that you got that are married couples that you hang with, because normally married couples hang with married couples. Well, once the guy gets divorced from the woman or the woman divorces him, all of the married couple's friends are now with the woman and throwing the guy under the bus.
Oh, yeah, yeah, all of them.
Every last guy that's married will throw the guy under the bus.
Yep.
Right along with the women. You all step on them, walk on them, kick them while they're down. You don't give a shit. And you don't care who's in the wrong because it's obviously the guy's fault regardless. There couldn't have been two faults. It couldn't have been him and her both made mistakes. It couldn't be she made mistakes. It couldn't. It's no. It's only him. It's only him. It's always only him.
Yeah. It's always and only the man's fault.
Yes.
I mean, you know the story, but just for your listeners who don't know the story, the guy who was my best man at my wedding, so he's obviously a very good friend of mine, right? The
Yeah.
guy who was my best man at my wedding has two sons. They're the same age as a little bit older than our two children, right? A couple of years older each of them. And I said to him, you know, uh, this is going on in the divorce courts, and you've got two boys. I would have thought that you'd be helpful or supportive because you've got two boys, and I rather think that you're not doing enough to defend the rights of your sons. I was in that vein. It wasn't hostile or anything else like that. I'm talking to my best man, right? And I'm saying you got the divorce courts are criminal in nature. You've got two boys. Maybe you want to be doing a little bit more to defend your sons. And he unlinked to me on LinkedIn and never spoke to me ever again because I said I thought he should be doing more to defend
Oh
the rights of his
no.
son.
You hurt his little feelers.
I heard his feels, right?
That's right. You
And
hurt his feelers.
and that was my best mate. And you're like, when I saw it a few days later, I didn't notice it straight away, right? But a few days later, I'm unlinked to him on LinkedIn. I'm like, he unlinked to me on LinkedIn. You've got to be shitting me, right? And That's how deep it goes. How dare you tell me as a father that I should be doing a little bit more to defend the rights of my sons? How dare you tell me that? I'm really upset.
Well, you couldn't be honest
That-
and say what you see.
No, it's
You have to sugarcoat it and tell him only what he wants to hear.
yeah, it's like the uh, the difference between the lack of support between men is that much. It is if you're being criminally persecuted, you don't tell me anything about that. I don't want to know about that. Okay, that's fine. And that's how men are treated. Like uh, for your audience, the very when I was back in February 2008, my own father said to me that I should tolerate the crimes I'm being subjected to, because if I don't tolerate the crimes, I won't have any friends left. And I said back to him, anybody who supports Jennifer's crimes against me is not my friend, and I want nothing to do with that person. I would have thought that was obvious, right? If my wife is committing perjury and I'm being criminally abused by the by two national governments at the time, anybody who supports that is actually not my friend. I'd have thought that was obvious.
Well, that should be an obvious thing, you know. But
Yeah,
it's one of them, right? Like we said earlier. I mean, it goes right back down to the fact that you, as a man, are not allowed to stand up for yourself, okay, against another female. Only a man. The
yeah,
only one that
yeah,
has the privilege of standing up for themselves against a man and a woman is a woman.
yeah. Oh, and standing up for themselves. He called me fat. Well, you are fat. Yeah, I know I'm fat, but that's body shaming, and we have body positivity, and you're not allowed to call a fat woman fat, and you're not allowed to say to a fat woman that she should hit the gym. No, that's terrible. But perjury at a divorce court, that's fine.
Oh, well, let's just get real about this. There's plenty of women in 1 to 5 seconds already have found you disgusting.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
they don't hesitate to put you down and not even knowing you, and they'll look for every thought you have. Okay? But if you find a thought on them, oh, how dare you? But it's okay for us to do it to you. It's that double standard BS shit again.
yeah. And Ron Fans is asking, Gemma is an agent. Ron Fans, this guy in the comments, Ron Fan, has a few times tried to support Gemma O'Doherty, who's a woman in Ireland. But yes, Ron, Gemma is an agent, and she's getting censored now a little bit.
Alex Jones, I see that. And Alex Jones, that was all a psyop. It was to make you believe in a lie. Alex Jones has always been working with the establishment from day one. Well, you think
Yeah,
he produced them movies? No, he was hooked to Turner. He don't even own the office he's in. He was hooked to Turner. Who's Turner? Oh, Time Warner. Oh, who's that? Warner Brothers. Oh, who's that? That's Hollywood itself.
yeah. I mean, one of the things for you, Ron Fan, one of the things that agents do, and Bill and I were saying this earlier, is 98% of what they say is true. It's supposed to be true because you're supposed to be believing them. If they told you lies 100% of the time, then you wouldn't believe any of it. But they
No.
tell you the truth 98% of the time, and the other 2%, the little bit of lies that they talk about, that's the poison. But one of the easiest ways to determine if someone's an agent is the one thing that they will not talk about is the criminal abuse of men in the divorce courts. Agents will not talk about that. And Alex Jones actually went through the whole divorce court charade thing and still didn't talk about it, right?
No.
Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, neither of them talked about what goes on in the divorce courts. So Alex Jones has been making videos for 20, 25 years, and he's never once addressed the issue of the criminal abuse of men in divorce courts. It's one easy way to tell if somebody's an agent.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you have that. That'll tell if they're an agent. Okay. And then, of course, there's other things. You just got to start watching a person really close, but you cannot judge a person by what a person does, like with Richie from Boston. Okay, because he's traveling all the time.
Yeah.
You don't know nothing about this guy. You know nothing about where he got his money or anything. You're just making judgment calls on what you're seeing because you can't afford to do it. Now, if you was talking about Jason Goodman, well, then yeah, you're talking about Mr. Mossad, okay? You're talking about a real life agent because Jason Goodman just happens to be the guy that created the video camera that allowed them to do 3D movies and put images in videos that didn't exist. He just happens to live in a 4 point something, I think it's $4.5 million apartment in the middle of Manhattan. Okay. He just happens to, be who he is. Well, yeah, that's no accident. This guy is part of it. I wouldn't be surprised a bit if he ain't the guy that goes. If you went to the roof of the building he lives in, you find that it's a big patio on the roof. Well, all she'd have to do is take the camera he invented, go up to the freaking roof, and he had a nice, perfect view of the trade centers. Wouldn't have been hard at all to fill the trade centers and stuff a couple planes into the freaking video that was never there and sell it back to the freaking media.
Yeah.
That's how easy that shit's done. So when you're talking about Jason Goodman, yeah, you're talking about. If you're talking about Roy Potter, yeah, you're talking about. If you're talking about Jim Fetchard, yep, you're talking about. I mean, I'm naming off agents now, okay? People that are working with establishment. Ole Demigard, Jason Goodman. Yeah, that's right, Jim Fetchard. Yeah, I can lay you a whole list of names. Okay, they're actually working with the establishment. People you can't trust. Turd flinging monkey. Coach Red Pill. Guaranteed. You
Yeah.
say, well, turd flinging monkey. Yeah, and I love it because he made a mockery out of all of you. All you got to do is take and turn the name around. Okay? Turd flinging monkey. What does monkey normally stand for? Man. Okay? Flinging turds. What does turd stand for? Propaganda, bullshit, lies. Turn the freaking name around and you understand it real quickly. He's too
Yeah.
professional, too laid out. He's the guy that actually took and broke down the categories of the manosphere and made his professional looking graph. And TFL has never, ever, not even from day one, okay, been incel, involuntary celibacy. Okay, never. I've always separated that from day one, okay? But when you look into incel, you find out it was created out of a university in Canada. So many programs have come right out of universities through the elite. And the first person to create involuntary celibate incel, well, it was a female who couldn't get laid.
Or
Red,
couldn't get laid by the sort of men she wanted to get laid by, right?
that would be the actual answer there,
That would be the actual answer.
right? But
She
the
wanted.
red flag is it came out of a university, okay? You got to pay attention to what comes out of universities. Who do you think controls all schools across the world, colleges and all? The 13 families.
Yeah.
And they
The
use
universities are very.
universities all the time.
Yeah, the universities are controlled, and the universities are good places to recruit people as well. So that it's the universities now are just insane. It's just crazy, but they're recruiting people out of the universities. So there's a couple of questions in here in the chat box. Jeff Ashton asked me, "What do you think life will be like for the average American in 2 years?" The thing is, we don't know the timeline of what they're planning to do. Right? We know what they're planning to do. We don't know how rapidly it's going to move.
I got an
So
idea of a timeline, but I can't verify it all the way. But I can tell you an idea of a timeline for the United States. And what has been suggested through the United Nations is between 2020 and 2030 to reduce the world's population down to what they want off of the Georgia Guidestones. That would give you 10 years, okay? Now, if people was to stand up, if enough people stood up and threw a wrench in the works, you could delay it. If people did the right things, you could stop it altogether. Though, however, I don't see any of that happening. I see too many zombies.
yeah, and I mean, we were saying earlier that I think the zombies are justifying the depopulation program. But
Yeah.
it's very possible over the next 2 years that there'll be significant financial decline, significant economic decline in the US, because the Democrats are openly talking about continuing rioting and these sort of things after the election if Trump wins, right? So who knows how that's going to go? But over time, you will see economic decline in the West, and you will see more of these quote pandemics, and you will see more of this civil unrest, and you will see more immigration, etc. So
Food
my
shortages, lockdowns, the whole 9 yards, you know.
yeah, yeah, my view is it's going to be I think it's going to be a relatively long, slow decline, right? Now there are people who say that the depopulation program will be implemented over the next 5 to 10 years, and that may be true. It may not be true. I hope it's not true, but there are plenty of people talking about that, right? So we shall see. My own personal opinion is that they're going to make it a long, slow grind. That's my own personal opinion, but I don't have any evidence of that other than what I'm seeing. But of course, they could make it happen relatively quickly. The next quote bug might be something more like the Spanish flu rather than this current bug nonsense, which
Right,
isn't
but
really
but you
killing
know,
anybody.
even if it is Spanish flu or if it's something else, I'm sure that they're going to do is tell you, well, it mutated, you know, and
Yeah, yeah,
now
change.
it's mutated and it's become this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I see them pulling
Uh,
something like that, and of course, the sheep will buy into that. Yeah,
yeah,
man, it mutated. That must be what it is.
yeah. It'll be something like that. But the Spanish flu is the Black Death and the Spanish flu are the things that they've used before to do this sort of thing. So don't know exactly the time frame, but I can. My view is there'll be a long, slow economic decline in the US and around the Western world, and to impoverish more and more people, push people into this idea of the universal basic income, and
Yeah.
just
Well, it won't be hard, Peter, because just think of it this way. I don't think we have 5 years or 2 years before they replace the currency with their digital. Okay,
yeah.
if you pay attention to what's going on, and the United States, an example would be, did you ever look into Great Rome, the fall of Great Rome? If
Well, I
you
did, yeah,
if
yeah.
you look into the fall of Great Rome and you look at the United States right now,
It's
my
very
God, it's
similar.
it's deja vu, isn't it?
It's very similar.
Yes,
The
it
fo-
is.
the fall of the Western world, the decline of the Western world, and the decline of the Roman Empire are mirroring each other very closely.
They sure are.
Yeah.
And because
And
of that, then I'd have to suggest that, yeah. I mean, but you're right. I mean, Agenda 21 would be the reason you have half the United States on fire in all these mountain and all these rural communities because these people ain't going to be allowed to rebuild their watch and see. They're going to
yeah,
be forced into cities.
yeah, they're being burned out of those areas and going to be forced into larger suburban areas. That's what's going
Yes.
on. So hard to tell, Jeff, but I think it's just going to be a long, slow decline. I wanted to get on to Ron Fan because I believe Ron Fan is in Ireland and these are Irish issues.
Okay.
Uh,
Answer
so,
him real quick and I'll be right with you, okay?
yep, okay, you go take a break. So, Ron Fan is asking about Gemma O'Doherty and John Waters. So, for those of you who don't know, John Waters was married, had a daughter with Sinead O'Connor. I'm not sure if he was married to her or whatever, but they had a custody dispute between John Waters and Sinead O'Connor, that woman who was a singer many years ago. So John Waters was afforded the luxurious benefits of the Irish divorce courts, and he has spoken on that matter relatively consistently for the last 10 or 15 years, right? Now, I spoke to John Waters in 2009 and asked him directly if he was willing to help me um, expose the criminal nature of the divorce courts and help me secure the rights of men. And John said no. Now, I believe the reason. I don't know the reason. I believe or interpret his reluctance to do that to be that he felt that his future income or his well being would be at risk living in Ireland and supporting me. So John Waters was asked directly by me in 2009 if he was willing to expose the criminal nature of the Irish divorce courts or not, and his answer was no. So he has talked about, that men are treated poorly, etc., but he's never said, to my knowledge, that the divorce courts are criminal in nature, and he wasn't willing to help me do that. Right, with when I was living in Germany and relatively out of the clutches, out of the reach of the Irish government. So, John, I have no reason to believe John Waters is an agent of any sort. I simply believe that John Waters is a guy who, not 10 or 11 years ago, was concerned of how would I support myself, or what might I bring upon myself if I publicly uh, say that the divorce courts in Ireland are criminal in nature. Now, Gemma O'Doherty, the other one there, is a different case. Gemma O'Doherty, for those of you who don't know who she is, she was a quote journalist in air quote journalist in Ireland for 25 years. Never once mentioned the divorce courts in her entire quote journalism career. Suddenly comes out one day creating a thing called Anti-Corruption Ireland, and talking about how the government was corrupt, etc., in Ireland, blah blah blah. And as soon as she did that, like within a week of her coming out doing that, I went over and spoke to her directly and asked her if she's going to expose the corruption in the divorce courts. Now, she never answered me, but she did block me from making comments on a channel almost immediately. So if Gemma Doherty wants to block me making comments on her channel almost immediately, when the question is, what are you going to do? Are you going to say anything about the criminal abuse of men in the divorce courts? That's good enough for me to call her an agent. Now, she's been very vocal and high profile, etc., for about two and a half years, something else like that. And during that entire time, she has never once, to my knowledge, uttered the words, the divorce courts are criminal in nature, and she's never once uttered the words, women should get the same sentencing as men. That's, to the best of my knowledge, Ron. Now, if you could show me a video clip or anything from Gemma O'Doherty saying either of those two things, then I might be willing to think about that again. But neither John Waters nor Gemma O'Doherty will speak to me, will respond to me. Now, Dave Cullen is another person that Ron Fan is mentioning, and most of your viewers would know Dave Cullen. He ran a channel called, or runs a channel called Computing Forever. And I went and spoke to Dave Cullen years and years and years ago. God knows how many years ago now. And he has sisters. Obviously, he's Irish. He lives in Ireland. He has sisters. And I went and asked Dave, are you willing to talk about the divorce courts? And back then, his answer was, well, no, this is a channel about computers. So, no, I'm not going to talk about divorce courts. And I said, well, fair enough. If you don't want to talk about divorce courts, that's fine. Now, as things have moved along, Dave's channel was simply about computers, right? So I would have spoken to Dave at least 10 years ago, I imagine, something like that. It was a long time ago. And he's saying, well, no, my channel's about computers. And so, he has a channel about computers. But as things got worse and worse and worse in Ireland, Dave slowly started to talk about the issues of the government in Ireland, and then slowly started to talk about the issues of the government in the US. Now, I have no reason to believe Dave is a dishonest man, but he also blocked me making comments on his channel, right? So, after he started talking about the criminality of the government and things like that, I went back over to him and said, well, you got a mother, you got sisters, you're Irish. Are you willing to, go ask your mother, are you willing to support prosecuting criminal women? Are you willing to go ask your sisters these things, Dave? Are you willing to ask your audience, the women in your audience, to do these things, Dave? And so Dave eventually blocked me, and he blocked me also on Gab as well when we were on Gab. So I don't think Dave's a dishonest guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he has also blocked me, and he has also refused to discuss the divorce courts. But I think Dave is just a guy who's into computers, who now sees that things are really bad and is talking about it.
Well, we
But
have a Fed who acknowledged right to my face that the court systems are corrupt. I mean, I looked the feds in the face that day they were at my door, and one was an older guy, the other was a younger guy, and I looked that older guy square in the face and said, "Well, you do realize that the court systems are nothing but a criminal cartel?" And he didn't even hesitate. Him, it was an immediate answer. And he says, "Yeah, I'm aware of that."
yeah, yeah, they know. They all know. I mean, all the judges, all the lawyers, all the police officers, all the politicians, they all know that the courts are a complete scam, a criminal enterprise. They all know it. They'll deny it, but they'll deny it if they're in public or anything else like that. But they all know it.
Yeah.
That's like I was talking with Bill before we came on. I was saying to Bill that I was on Parler and I said the only good cop is a dead cop, and this cop, 30-year veteran retired cop, starts abusing me. And how dare you say that? Blah 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 blah. And I said to him, you know the divorce courts are criminal in nature. You supported it. You went into men's houses and dragged them out based on false allegations. He goes, well, no, I never did any of that. And I said to him, one, I don't believe you when you say that. And two, whether you did that or not yourself, you know that was common practice in the precinct that you worked in amongst your peers. You know that was going on. And knowing it's going on and doing nothing about it is just as bad. And then his next response was, well, I don't have time to talk with you about these things. You know, for God's sake, man, you're retired. What else are you doing other than what else are you doing with your time? And why isn't it important to talk about these things? So they all know this stuff. So, Dave, I mean, there was a Dave Cullen and John Waters did a show recently, and a friend of mine who uses the Winston Smith YouTube logo. So he's a guy I know, and he doesn't comment on YouTube much. And we were talking about the Dave Cullen John Waters video that he released just like must have been like 4 or 5 days ago. Wasn't very long ago. It was a fairly short time ago, maybe a week ago, something like that. And Winston goes, "Well, I'll go over and have a chat because I can't talk on his channel and I don't bother, right?" So Winston goes over and says something to the effect of, Dave, uh, how about you and John tell us about your plan now that you've ignored Peter Andrew Nolan for 11 years? How about you tell us about your plan on how you're going to fix this stuff, right? This guy had a plan 11 years ago and he asked for your help, and you said no, you didn't want to help him, and he's been criminally abused by your government for the last 13 years. Tell us your plan. I'd be really interested to hear your plan, right? And a few
Uh-huh.
people, a few people commented on his comment like, "What are you talking about?" And he's saying, "Well, Peter Andrew Nolan went public in 2008 and told the world that the divorce courts are criminal in nature. He asked John Waters to help. He asked Dave to help. But he said no. It's been 11 years, so I'm interested in knowing what their plan is. They're talking about the problems, but what's their plan for solving any of these problems?" And so, who knows what's going to happen. But, Dave Cullen and John Waters didn't have a plan. They were just talking about the issues of the day, right? No proposal for how to fix the issues of the day. So I don't know that John Waters or Dave Cullen agents in any way, shape, or form. But Gemma O'Doherty, being a 25-year veteran journalist working in Ireland in journalism, and never ever ever noticed that the divorce courts were criminal in nature, and now she's running anti-corruption Ireland, never mentioning the divorce courts. I mean, give me a break. That woman's an agent straight up and down, right?
Yeah, well, the courts, unfortunately, your judges are all paid and bought for, your scientists are all paid and bought for. You're going to believe the science community and you're going to get lied to up the yin yang because they're all been sold out by the tool. And that's literally where this comes from. And everything Peter said would be correct. It's on a global scale. This is not no accident. This is on a global scale. And it's sad. The sad thing is, like with Peter, he had to think he was living a normal life like everybody else and hold down a job and be the breadwinner and had to break his butt and do all this stuff just to find out the gal he loved behind his back was stabbing him in the back, and then the courts turned around and stabbed him twice as hard in the back, And then the friends they thought were friends, they turned around and joined her and stabbed him in the back. And, he's thrown under the bus, yanked out, and thrown under a train. And I mean, this is
That's what
literally
happens to
what
me.
happened.
This is what happens to men in divorce. I mean, one of the reasons you have such a very high suicide rate of men in divorce. I've talked to, it would be thousands and thousands of men now who've gone through divorce. God knows how many men I've talked to on the topic of divorce, and they've told me their story. I mean, it's in the thousands now, and they are shocked that their family turns around and betrays them. Most of them are absolutely shocked. They're like, my fathers, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins. They're all taking the woman's side. They're all saying I must have done something wrong. They're all saying it must be my fault.
Yep.
They're all taking her side. I'm like, they're really surprised. Like, they're really surprised.
Well, it stands out. It stands out in your face, okay? It has for a long time. And, this is why years ago I got lots of attacks just for making this one statement that you people know how to create your very own killer.
Oh
And
yeah,
and Peter was the one guy, this is how I met Peter, that come along and totally knew what I was saying and was right on board with that, okay? That statement, because that statement is so damn true. You create your person who's going to kill you. You literally do. You create that situation. You bring it onto yourself, and then you whine and cry. Oh, poor her. No, she wasn't. Okay, but you don't never hear him say, "Oh, poor him." Of course, unless it was a 10-year-old him. If it was a
yeah.
10-year-old or an 8-year-old him, then you'll say poor him. But don't let it be of age, because that it won't even be acknowledged.
Oh yeah. Once a boy's past puberty, well, then that's it. He's done. There's no sympathy for him forever. And the male suicide rate of young men is climbing rapidly as well. But the guys that you talk to who've gone through divorces, and they're just so shocked that all the people that they would believe loved them and cared about them all betray them 2 or 1. They are just shocked. They're really shocked, and then they're impoverished and all the rest of it, and they can't see their kids and blah blah blah. The surprise isn't that men are killing women occasionally. The surprise is that they're not killing them in very large numbers.
And
That's
more
the real
often,
surprise.
yes, I know. But it comes down to, like with TFL, I always said that TFL never promoted violence. Incel promotes violence regularly, okay? But then Incel was brought to you for a reason, okay? And it's not for a good reason, it's to set your ass up, okay? But TFL never supported violence. I don't support violence, but I'm with Peter because accountability and being held accountable. But how are you going to do it when it's a corrupt system and it was all deliberately done? You ain't going to do it.
Yeah,
You have to collapse the system. You have to bring these people down. And it ain't going to happen unless people can stand together. And that ain't going to happen because we spent too many years dividing all you knuckleheads. And I hate to
yeah,
say that, but the reality is the reality, from race to gender to everything. I mean, everything.
yeah. I mean, I was on this show yesterday, on this show on Friday with these young guys, and I was saying to them, this depopulation program is going to happen. You don't have any choice about it. It's going to happen, and that's why all these other things are happening. And they're saying, "Well, how do you fix it?" And I say, "Well, you don't. You don't fix it now. There is no way to fix this now.
You
This
had
is
a
going to
chance.
happen."
You had a chance for a fix many years ago when Barbarossa gave you men going their own way. If guys would have taken that literally and done it for real, literally in massive numbers all over the world, you could have turned this around. But that, why do you think it went mainstream? Because they couldn't allow that to happen. That would spoil years of hard work of dividing the genders. That would have
Yeah,
just messed it all up for them. The elite couldn't allow that to happen. So they had to step in, intervene, and change the perception of people and flip it around to nothing more than, oh, well, it's a different, we're just moving our own way individually, and it's okay if I'm going my own way and I'm jumping through all the loopholes and playing all the games and bending over and taking it in the rear. Okay. No, that's not okay. It's okay if I don't stand up for another man because why would I stand up for another man? Why do you think Peter couldn't get no guys to stand with him? Let
Yeah,
alone the opposite gender. He don't stand a chance. He was fried from the beginning, just like anything else. I mean,
yeah. There's an interesting thing going on now in Australia and also in other places. But in Australia, there's this thing called the Australian Common Law Courts Organisation, started by a guy called presumably Mike Holt. I've asked Mike if there's somebody else behind the curtain or whether he's representing this himself, and he won't answer me. So I presume he's representing this himself, right? And he's talking about, we're creating these common law assemblies and all the rest of it. And I said, Mike, we did all this work 10 years ago, right? All this stuff happened 10 years ago. You weren't there, right? 10 years ago. You're here now. The only question I've got for you is, are you willing to sit on a jury, a common law jury? Well, this Mike Holt, who wants to save Australia, won't sit on the common law jury, the one thing that he's being asked to do. And so he won't do it. And so men will not sit on juries to fairly and justly judge women brought before them properly accused of a crime. They won't do it. The jury trial is the mechanism to peacefully resolve criminal disputes. That's the best mechanism that we've ever invented amongst human beings to resolve criminal disputes. Men won't sit on that jury. And so the men who are the victims of these crimes are only left with the path to violence. Violence is the only mechanism of remedy for the crimes that they're being subjected to, because other men are refusing to sit on those juries and legitimize the remedy instruction handed to the woman.
well, there's that,
So,
and then they ain't gonna stand on a jury, let alone stand beside another man who's been wronged. If it's
no,
against a female, no way, man. Oh,
no, they
you're
won't
on your
even.
own. I'm throwing you under a bus.
Yeah, they won't even. Men will not even sit on a jury with the benefit of anonymity attached to it. So men will not help other men, even to the very small amount of, would you give up a few hours of your time to sit on a formal common law jury? Would you do that? And the answer is no. I'm not going to do
No,
that.
of course not. So
Screw him.
let's
Screw
go
him.
back.
Right?
Let's just take what Peter's been talking about and let's tie it into NWO and let's tie it into what we've seen with NWO and all the double standards that's been put in society. Peter couldn't get not one guy to stand together. He couldn't even get guys to go onto a jury, and he couldn't get women to go onto a jury. Okay, and what did I say? It was the core, like an apple has a core, a pear has a core. Well, let's think about it. It's the biggest problem there is in all of NWO. Why? Because when you're talking about men and women, okay, the last time I looked, every country on the continent has men and women. Okay? So that means that's the biggest freaking psyop, I mean, BS ever created. I mean, that is NWO all the way in your face. How do you think you're going to be at Agenda 21? You're going to stop the evil that's coming in when you can't even correct something like this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the things I say to people is the people who say, "Oh, we need to stand together and save the country." Right? All these people who are always talking about we need to stand together and save the country. That's what they're always talking about. And I say, okay, well, here's say a guy who slandered me. Here's say my wife who committed perjury against me. Let's resolve this problem. This one in the scheme of things, in the scheme of the whole depopulation program, one woman who's committed 2 counts of perjury, that's a really small problem, a really simple problem to solve. Well, you can't solve that problem. So if you can't solve that problem, don't tell me how you're going to stand together to save all of humanity from the depopulation program, right? You can't. Men are not able to solve the tiniest of problems by working together, unless
No.
you're getting paid, right? If
Oh,
they're
yeah,
getting well
that's it.
paid, then they'll work together.
They got to be collecting the tool from the very people who gave them these problems. Because it's the people who own the monetary systems, the 13 families, that have created all these problems deliberately. So, you got to collect the tool, you got to collect what's keeping you enslaved. And, and
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be harsh about it because I understand you have to have money to live. okay? Because that's the system was set up globally. I understand that. But if you don't take the ownership away and give it back to the people of their nations, it's over with. And it's already over with because you all willing to sell out. You don't care who you step on. If you're on a job, you'll throw everybody under the bus to get that position for the raise. You don't care who you walk on. And if they offer you enough money, man, you'll come up online, work for the United Nations, work military industrial complex. You can be an Army intelligence, Navy intelligence. You can be CIA. You can come up here and you'll be given a really good fat paycheck, man. I could be like Alex Jones, living the big life, right? Okay. Yep, that's right. That's how they got where they got. And when it's all said and done, he won't be living, they won't be living a big life no more. The only thing they will have accomplished is killing their own children off, killing their grandchildren off, killing any chance of anything for anybody and everybody around them off of their own selfishness.
Yep, it's basically what's going on,
So,
and that's how it's been for a long time. I mean,
yeah.
I've been a public figure since June 2008, and I've been an impoverished public figure since mid 2012. And men simply say, no, we're not going to cooperate and collaborate. We're not going to work together. We're not going to do this.
No, and I don't know how long I've known Peter now, but I've known Peter for quite a while now.
Yeah, 2009 we met.
It was somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, I first came across your videos in 2009, I think. It was either very late 2008, but I think it was early 2009 I first saw your videos. I saw your videos and went, huh, this guy knows what's going on. And then we started chatting from there.
Yep, and Peter even he came out and co-hosted my radio show with me for a spell when I was doing my Blog Talk radios.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how
But
many people
back.
was around for that to remember that, but see, Peter and I have known each other for quite a while now. You may not see, we
Yeah,
may not talk all the time or whatever, but I'll tell you what, if I want to talk to Peter, I say something, he's right there. And if he ever asked me to talk, I'd be right there. Okay?
yep.
As long as we have the ability to do so. When they take that away from us, well, say oh, but don't mean I'll forget him.
Yeah, but sooner or later they'll say, no, 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 no. You two guys shouldn't talk to each other because when you talk to each other, you say too much to the young fellas, right?
Yeah,
But
probably so. Yep.
back when we were doing the radio show, we gave it a really good tilt to explain to the young guys, like, guys, if you don't step up to the plate now, if you don't take on these guys sooner, when it comes to later, you're not going to be able to defend yourself. You're not going to be able to stand up to them. And the way that we were presenting it then was in 2012 is, Bill and I are on in years and we've lived good lives, etc. But you young guys have got your whole life in front of you, and you're not going to like what's coming. So either get get on your bike now and start working towards the security of your own future, or you're not going to like what comes. And these lockdowns and all this stuff, this is a good indication of what's coming. This is a taste of what's coming. I don't think it's even close to what's
No,
really going to happen,
no,
but this is a
I
taste of what's coming.
personally myself, I suspect, or at least over here, 20. You think 2020 was bad? I suggest you ain't seen shit. I
Oh, you
suggest
see
because
nothing.
there was 4 steps to this plan. Okay, the invisible bug was the bringing in of what's coming in right now, NWO. That's what this was all about to begin with, okay? And there was 4 steps in it. Well, we have just now entered step 2. Now, you think about it. We're just now entering step 2. So, yeah, I suggest that 2021, oh man, the stuff that's going to happen. And, I've been watching a little bit and I'm seeing that the San Andreas fault line has been shifting and moving. And the Madridian fault line has been shifting and moving. And then you got energy weapons being used. And matter of fact, once again, another energy weapon was caught shooting into the Madridian fault line. Okay, by the same person, Dutch Sense. And then the Pentagon had to come up and make a statement and say that wasn't blah, 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 blah. Well, why did the Pentagon had to make a statement on Dutch Sense's call? Well, because they wasn't planning on this guy having a lay of radar up at the time that they used it.
Yep.
That's all that comes down to. But see, this right there tells you that this is an accident. There's nothing. It's all being man-made. Every last bit of it. If we get a major earthquake that drops and kills lots of people, it's going to be created by technology. You've heard of the technocrats? Where do you think they work at? Silicon Valley. Where do you think Silicon Valley is? It's the heart of the social engineering machine for the globe. People doubt me on that? No. Look around you. It's affecting everybody worldwide what comes out of Silicon Valley.
Yep, the Facebook, Twitters, etc. The social media's been really poisonous, particularly for the women. Really poisonous.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to see this decline. That's what we're going to see. But yeah, I was saying that 8 years ago when we were doing the radio show, we did it for a few months, 3 or 4 months, and we were saying you young guys better get on your bike and start pedaling because this is not going to look good. And here we are in 2020 that we're starting to see what this doesn't look good looks like, right? We're
Yeah.
starting to see what that might look like.
I run that radio show for just short of 5 years. And then I shut it
Yeah.
down, never brought it back up again because it wasn't worth it. I'd go up there and, well, first off, live streams would come out and I wasn't live streaming, and that was beating hell out of the radio show. Second off, the censorship by Blog Talk. I
Yeah.
mean, when I went after Diana Boston and she wouldn't show up on the radio show, I took and downloaded one of her videos and turned it into an audio file and put it up. And I did a reply based on that on my Blog Talk radio show. Okay. Well, all of my shows are archived without a problem, but that one never archived. I get a hold of Blog Talk, blah blah blah, on this date. What happened to that show? Oh well, you did. Oh well, I'll get hold of the text and we'll have that fixed. It'll be up in the next couple hours. Okay. So 3 hours later, it showed up, and her video that I played and then I stopped and critiqued. Okay, I was critiquing myself. They removed all the audio from her and left me talking to myself.
Yeah. I mean, Blog Talk Radio was one of the original censors, one of the early censors in this whole exercise. Well, that's basically what's going on. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So if anybody else has any other questions they want to put into the chat, that'll be fine, and we'll answer those. But yeah, we're going to see a steady decline, I think. And what I'm saying to guys now is, find a business that works in a steadily declining economic environment. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad thing to do. Find a business that matches that. One of my buddies in Sweden is actually selling women's sex toys and having a very good business of it. So I found that hysterical.
I gave the Manosphere I couldn't help myself when I gave them crap over this because the only spot I've ever heard this is in the Manosphere, okay? And this statement, Peter, was women don't like sex like men do. Okay? Women do not like sex, Peter. Okay? And anybody that's ever had anything in their life knows that's complete hogwash, okay? But these guys in the Manosphere will try to argue with you that all day long. So I says, so do you suppose the dildo sales got out of control because all of you men are buying them? I couldn't help but say that. And said, well, they don't sell that. Oh, like you would know they don't sell that much. Is that why they sell hundreds of different types and sizes and vibrators? Because there's not a market for them? Well, obviously, if women don't like sex as much as men do, then it must be you guys buying them.
Yeah. That's something they use for manipulation. Jeff Aston is saying, "What do you think about digital currency?" I've been seeing more news about it.
It's coming.
The cashless society is coming. The new currency is called special drawing rights. This has been on the cards for a long time, in plan for a long time.
Yes, it's already completely ready to go in. All they got to do is implement it.
They can implement it anytime they like, but the idea will be that you have things called drawing rights, and there will be drawing rights and special drawing rights, and you will be able to buy things using these drawing rights as credits, like credits. And then if you're a bad boy and you do something wrong, you won't be able to draw on your drawing rights, right? So then you won't be able to buy food or whatever. And Jeff, just to let you know, I was telling Bill about this earlier. Way back in like 2008 or 2009, I was working. I think it was 2009. I was working in the UK at Carphone Warehouse, but we got another customer in um, Ireland, and I was doing some work at a telco in Ireland. So I was doing a lot of backwards and forwards between London and Ireland. And then one time when I was coming back, I got the ticket, and on the back of the ticket, it has information about claims for luggage lost or delayed and things like that. And on the back of the ticket in 2009 was the claim was denominated in special drawing rights. And I was saying to Bill earlier, somebody's jumped the gun there, and they've got special drawing rights as a currency on the flip side of my Aer Lingus airline ticket in 2009. So the new currency will be called something like drawing rights and special drawing rights. And when you're a naughty boy, you won't be able to draw on your drawing rights anymore,
Oh yeah.
and
Well, you know,
it'll all be digital.
it's in your face. They told you there was a shortage on coins in America. I don't
Yeah,
know about
I've heard, I've
Yes,
heard.
they actually had signs up. They had a sign up, wasn't not long ago at Burger King that said, um, "Please use debit card because we don't have no coins to give back in change because there's a shortage on coins."
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and then I seen another one. I think it was the $10 bill they were trying to say there was a shortage on. No, there is no shortage. This is their way of introducing you to the new digital currency.
yeah. Moving you across. Yeah,
Yes.
Jeff is asking, will Bitcoin survive when the countries get their coins out? Well, Jeff, Bitcoin is a psyop. Bitcoin was created by the Committee of 300. I believe the purpose of Bitcoin was to track down the people who are going to try and avoid the government digital currency and avoid the taxes and things like that. In
Well,
case you,
it was also, but the Federal Reserve was deep in bed with that because when you look into the Bitcoin, you'll find out it actually came out of the Federal Reserve. But because they're claiming it come out of the Federal Reserve, don't mean it came from there because you got to realize the Federal Reserve is owned by who? The Rothschild dynasty. And where are they housed out of? London. Okay, so there. I mean, this right there alone should tell you the bankers are behind it. So if the Bitcoin is created by bankers, well, I'm sorry, you can't get any more legit than that.
yeah, it's really legit. Created by the Committee of 300, run by the Committee of 300.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Bitcoins that most people don't know is you can pay your taxes in Bitcoin in Germany. So if the German government is willing to accept Bitcoin in taxes, you know that they're in on it, right? They don't collect something that is, oh, this is going to free people from the tyranny of governments. Well, the German government's not going to collect it in taxes if that's the situation, right?
Well, then that
So,
means that Peter, your new project is to create your own digital currency, and they should accept it,
oh yeah, oh yeah.
right?
Now, back in the day, I mean, in 2011, I proposed that we create a bank. I called it the Man Bank, and I said to guys, you need to have a bank, and where you can put deposit, and you can trade money where the money stays in the bank, and you trade certificates for the money, and you have the certificates be one for what you put into the bank, right? And I talked to my bank in Switzerland, and I talked to another guy in Switzerland, and we had a small bank in Switzerland who was willing to say, okay, well, if guys ship gold, I was going to suggest gold, silver, and platinum as the three currencies that we could have, and you could ship gold, silver, or platinum to the bank, and we'd put it in there, and that would be your deposit, and then you could use that money electronically. Now, I proposed all that back in 2011, and men said, "No, why would we do that? We've already got banks, right?" It's like, yeah, you've already got banks, and they're criminal scumbags. What you need is an honest bank, and men were not interested. but we actually did line up a bank. Either I could use either my bank in Switzerland, or we could use this other small bank where this buddy of mine lives in Switzerland, and they were both willing to take deposits, and we could even do deposits in currency. Because what I suggested was, if we do a deposit in currency, let's say somebody sends €1,000 to my buddy in Switzerland, he goes out and he buys gold for that amount and puts that gold into our safety box in that bank, and then we run a site which says, okay, you've deposited €1,000 worth of gold into your account, and now you can trade on that using this digital platform that we were proposing between men. And at the end of the day, if someone said, okay, I want to now withdraw my quote money, then we could send him money and he could buy gold at his end, just so that we didn't have to transfer gold from one place to the other. But all that sort of stuff was all proposed and discussed, and men said, no, we don't want a bank. We're happy with what we've already got. And then Bitcoin came along in 2012. Really, it started getting bigger in
Well,
2000.
that just tells you what you proposed was already in the elites' minds, and they were already working on it. Okay, you
Oh
had
yeah,
no idea they were already working on your idea. Well, they
yeah,
couldn't let
yeah.
you have your idea because that was their idea,
Yeah.
right?
Well, on an honest bank, the last thing that those guys want is an honest bank, right?
Well, they couldn't have that now, could they?
Can't have that.
That would be like
But
having an honest court.
yeah, but just it would only have ever been a relatively small number of men who would use the man bank, but men were not interested in such a thing as having a man bank. But
Now maybe if you would have called it the woman bank, lots of lots of simps would have come running over. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. If I had a pretty woman fronting it and called it the simp bank, then they'd have joined in,
They
right?
would have joined right on in, right?
They'd have joined right on in. They'd have joined right on in.
I could see that happening. I'm telling you, I could just see that happening because I've seen some stuff that just blows me away. I mean, they were showing me a video that just blew me away. I couldn't believe it, but then I do believe it because we're that far gone our head. And that was, I was looking at it, couldn't believe what I was watching. But this
Well,
guy goes to an ATM machine.
yeah.
He withdraws $200. Then he turns around and hands it to this nice looking female. And she says, "Thank you. You can go ahead now." He got on his knees and kissed her feet. Then he stood up and says, "Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that." And she says, "Have a nice day," and walked away. And I was
Oh, you're
like,
kidding.
"Oh my God, shoot that fucker."
Tell me the depopulation program is not justified, right? Tell me it's not
Exactly. Yeah,
not
I know.
justified.
I know. Well, I mean, between that and the bathwater, I'm sorry. I mean, I think something seriously needs to happen here, like population reduction.
Yeah, those simps,
Yeah.
the simps definitely need to go. The simps definitely need to go. But like OnlyFans, I was reading an article the other day. This woman was bitching that OnlyFans was created by a man, and he's making money in this business from all these women. And I'm just, why isn't OnlyFans run by a woman? Why didn't women create OnlyFans? Well, there's nothing stopping women
Well,
from
what do you
creating a
think?
site like
Ashley
OnlyFans.
Madison, AshleyMadison.com. That
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
guy. That
They're
wasn't
all
no
they're
girl
all
named Ashley. That was a guy.
yeah. It's all created. They're all created by men. I mean, Pornhub is created by men. So all these sites are created by men. All these sites for women to make money on are created by men, and the men take a cut. So that's so funny. I mean, back in the day, that who was that woman? I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she ran that feminism site. She ran one of the top feminism sites, and Feministing. That was it. She ran that site, Feministing. Somebody might remember her name and stick it into the chat box. But the site was maintained by a guy. It was maintained by this freelancer guy, and he had his signature down on the bottom right hand corner. And I never noticed it for quite a while, but after a while I noticed it, and I put onto the site. You women are so useless. even your number one feminist site in the world is created and run by a guy. Why didn't you get some women to do this? And then they did. So they said they must have gone away and said, well, yeah, we should do that. And they did get some women to try and create a new site, and it crashed. It wouldn't work. So it was hysterical. I can't remember that woman's name off the top of my head, but this is like 12 years ago when websites were pretty new, right? And
Yeah.
feministing was a big site back then, and they got a guy to build it, and then when they tried to get women to build it, it failed. So it's crazy, crazy. But
Yeah.
that's a something. The things that we proposed back in the day, things like the Man Bank and having a video service for men and all that sort of stuff. Men were like, no, we're not interested. We're happy with what we've got. And then I started Man Book in 2014. No, we're happy with what we got. We'll keep using Facebook. I created Man Book, Facebook for Men, and men said, no, we're not interested.
Well,
So
but
there's been,
you did get some attention. You got
oh
yourself a nice report on the mainstream media.
yeah, yeah, I got quite a few mentions in a few media sites from Man Book. At one day, I actually had at one point in time over 250 concurrent users on Manbook, and it kept crashing. And that's when Raw Story ran a story about me saying I'd threatened to murder any women who registered to Manbook, like that was a credible thing. But it was on the 31st of December 2014, so it was obviously a very slow news day. So the Raw Story put out a story that I'd threatened to murder any woman who registered to Manbook, like it was real. And the thing crashed all day because I hadn't put caching in it or anything else like that yet, and it was crashing all day from the traffic that was coming to it, and I couldn't keep it running long enough to stick the caching software on. So I did get a few times. There was one after I put the caching software on, etc. There was one time I got 30,000 page views in a day. So I did. There were days when it went well, but that was a time talking about creating your own killer, right? There
Yeah.
was a there was a woman in a town just near where I grew up, a town called Narandra, and it's only 100 kilometers, 60 miles from where I grew up. And this woman, uh, the guy chopped her up and burned her, raped her, chopped her up and burned her, trying to get rid of the body.
So that's good. That's a little worse than Katie Piper, but the Katie Piper one, I sort of laughed at when I found the entire story because, and it wasn't because I was being an ass, but the fact is she was the typical one up on her pedestal that had super good looks, going out for modeling and dumping on everybody, any guy that she could because and she was running her little freaking high life on the river, and the guy that she last threw away like garbage, he came back and threw acid in her face.
Yeah, yeah,
He had a cup of coffee in his hand, but it wasn't a cup of coffee.
yeah,
Okay, and her face literally was, oh my, she was messed up. Now he may have went to jail for it, but she was messed up.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. And as there's some guys I talk to on Facebook, and one of the things that they're saying is as the level of civil unrest increases and the amount of policing decreases, there's a lot of guys who are going to settle some scores.
I could see stuff like that getting really nasty because when the police ain't responding to calls no more, and everything's gone to hell, and civil unrest is now unfolding, and food can't be gotten, and blah blah blah. That's going to be the time that these women who are running around on pedestals, loving the hell out of shitting on men and getting a power trip out of hurting a guy, they're going to wind up getting hurt the way they didn't plan. And I'm not condoning violence by any means, but you can only shit on somebody so long before something bad happens.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if a woman was walking down the street and there was a stray dog, and she picked up a stick and started beating the dog, and eventually the dog bit her to get it to stop beating her, beating the to get her to stop beating it, nobody would blame the dog for biting the woman, right?
Yeah.
Let's say she backed it into a corner or something else like that, and the dog had no escape, and she just kept beating the dog backed into the corner. Nobody would blame the dog for biting her, and everyone would say,
Nowadays, Peter, I'd have to say they would probably flip the dog over and look. It's a boy. Throw it in jail. Throw it in the pound. Kill it.
"Oh, it's a boy dog.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a misogynist dog."
That's right.
Yes,
It's a girl dog. Okay, she had it coming. Okay, that dog can go on
yeah,
its way.
yeah. But women do exactly the same thing to men via the divorce courts and false allegations and things like that as well. Oh, and when the man eventually strikes back, oh, it's all his fault. He should have just tolerated it, and that's standard. Now, there's a lot of
Yes.
men who are in the position of, yeah, well, I'm not going to do anything about it because I'd be the obvious suspect, and I'd be the guy going to jail, etc., etc. But in cases of civil unrest, many of those guys will say, "Well, my chances of getting caught just went down considerably, right? My chances of getting
Yeah.
caught, my chances of getting caught have gone down considerably. And this risk reward ratio, the reward is now gone above the risk. And men
Well,
work on risk reward ratios."
well, that also comes down to something Warren was saying quite some time back when he was talking about the women complaining they're living in a rape culture when they've never lived in a rape culture once in their life. But during the time you're talking about, that rape culture could actually manifest.
Well, that's going to turn up. That's going to show up in spades, right?
Yeah. And
Like,
then they won't have to lie about living in it because they'll actually be living in it. And why will that happen? Because they created it themselves.
yeah, yeah. Well, you're seeing now more and more stories and videos coming out where women are being attacked in the street and no men are rescuing them, right?
Well,
That's the
what can I say, Peter? Because I can always go back and remember what I witnessed and watched happen in New York City when that guy was mugging that female trying to get her purse. And that homeless guy out of nowhere came to her rescue. And the guy stabs the homeless guy. He's on the ground bleeding out. And she just looked at him, walked away, and never called the police, never called the fucking paramedics for him, never nothing. Just walked away. Meanwhile, security cameras on the buildings captured the whole thing. And they're watching guy come by and look at him and, hey, are you okay? And kick him a little bit with their foot. And he didn't move. And they just walked, never called nobody. And they got 4 or 5 guys walking by him. And then finally a squad car comes by, sees him, gets out and checks him out, and calls the paramedics. And of course he died. Okay, but where was the gal he saved? Well, there was his thanks for saving her.
yeah, yeah. There was
That
there
was
was
his
his
thanks from a female for saving her.
yeah, possibly saved her life, and she just walks away.
She just walked away and let him die. Didn't even call out for him. So, when I see that kind of stuff happen and I think about what's going to be coming back down on these women, the women with that mentality deserve everything they got coming to them.
Yeah, yeah, they do. There was a video out a while ago where this woman was in this argument with this man, and the boyfriend of the woman comes up and starts defending her and pulling her back, etc. And he's talking to the guy, right? Well, the guy smacks him in the mouth and knocks him out, and he falls down, and the woman is standing there looking at him like a sack of shit, like, "Oh well, yeah, my boyfriend's so weak he get knocked out with one punch." And it was just a look of total disdain that she had for this guy. He'd just come to her. She'd started the argument, and he'd come to her rescue to get her out of the argument, and he got smacked in the face, and she had absolute disdain for him. So this is not going to be pretty. This is not going to be pretty, because I was talking on to someone on YouTube comments this week about Bettina Arndt and how Bettina Arndt, who's very famous in Australia, had done absolutely nothing to help me, despite me asking her directly. And this guy said, "Well, why should Bettina Arndt help you?" And I said, "No, there's no reason why she should help me. By the way, I will teach young men there's no reason why they should help a woman being mugged in the street. Same thing."
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, 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 no. You have to help a woman if she's mugged in the street. No, you
No,
don't.
no, 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 no. Because
No, you don't.
when you witness what happened, why would you? Well, that was just one case. Well, I'm no, 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 no. I've seen way too many narcissist, man-hating women, and most of these women who are man-hating don't even know they're a man-hater. And if you tell them they're a man-hater, they'll call you names and argue with you all day long, and then you'll watch their behavior towards the opposite gender, and you'll be witnessing man-hating. But yet, if you hate on a woman, oh my God, you're a guy. That's it. It's over. She can hate on you all she wants, though.
Yeah, but hating on a woman is criticizing, right?
Oh yeah, that's criticizing, right? But in
Yeah,
today's society, it might be an act of terrorism, right?
yeah. Well, my Peter Nolan LinkedIn got taken down, and it got taken down because I was on this discussions group with women, women in leadership or leading women or something, and this woman was bitching about women only get paid 70 cents in the dollar, 77 cents in the dollar for demand, right? That whole argument. And I said, well, there's a reason why women get paid less, because if the women did the same job, the company doesn't care how much who they're paying. They care that the job gets done.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I'd have to differ with that a little bit, at least here in the U.S. in today's society, because
Oh, women get paid. Women
I'm
get paid
seeing
equal.
women making actually women are outnumbering men on
Yeah, the
having
women are
better
getting paid.
jobs.
The women are
They're
getting overpaid.
yeah.
So anyhow, I said to this woman, I said that's it's not sexism. She's claiming that the 77 cents in the dollar thing is based on sexism. And I said it's not based on sexism. There are good reasons for this. So she says, really? And I said, well, would you like to know the reason why women don't get paid as much? She goes, well, yes. And I explained it's because they don't listen to us men tell them how to do their job well, right? And the punchline was back in the 80s, we used to do code walkthroughs for our software, right? And a code walkthrough, there's nowhere to hide. You've got to give your code to other people and they review it and critique it for you. And often that's a bit critical and it's a bit boisterous, right? And the women would cry and run off to the toilet to cry when their software was being criticized. And I said, code walkthroughs were the number one way for young programmers to learn how to become better programmers. And the women cried and ran off to the toilets where the men said, thank you very much for giving me this good advice. So that's why you don't earn as much money. Well, that was deemed by LinkedIn, that was deemed harassment, right? I harassed her by answering her question with a true
Yeah, there you go. Yep, that was just total harassment, Peter.
and I went backwards and forwards with LinkedIn a few times, and I said, they're saying that this is the post that you made that's getting you banned. I'm like, this is a true statement. This is a true story. This happened. And they're like, yeah, but it's harassing. It upset the woman and it's harassing her. I'm like, are you seriously? This is a conversation back and forth with LinkedIn support. I said, are you seriously going to take the position that women are so frail and fragile, they have to be protected from a true story that's nearly 40 years old? That's something that women have to be protected from. That can be called harassment. Is this really the position you want to take, LinkedIn? Like as a corporation, you want to take this position? And the answer was yes. If a woman finds an answer upsetting, then you can have your LinkedIn shut down for harassment, despite the fact the answer is true.
Look at
Yes.
general manager positions, okay, and CEOs of companies, and you'll find more and more women holding them positions.
Yeah, yeah. They're hiring women just to hire into their affirmative action programs. They're affirmative action quota women.
Yeah.
And by doing that, by hiring women as affirmative action quota women, what they do is they discredit the very rare woman who actually does work hard and earn the position, right?
Yep.
That's who they're discrediting.
Well, nowadays, all you got to do is be a douchebag to get a position.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're
Be
a
the bad
hard, if
boy.
you're a hard worker, you ain't getting a position. They'll keep you as a slave.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Peter,
So,
we've been up here for like what 2 hours and 45 minutes already.
yeah, yeah. It's a good show. It's been a good chat.
Yeah, it has been. I think we should probably cut the chat for now because it's going to be an awful long live stream.
Yeah, it's a long live stream. But thanks very much for inviting me on, and a big shout out to all the guys who are watching. Let me check now how many's watching at the moment. I've got
um,
25.
yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't looking. I got the screen so I could look at you over the top of it. So,
Yeah, there's 25 watching now. So for all those guys out there who listen to the live stream, thank you very much for coming along and listening. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Bill, for inviting me onto your channel and onto your show. I really appreciate that.
oh, I appreciate being able to talk to you again. You know, we don't talk very often, so when we do talk, it's sort of catching up, and it's sort of nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that we should do one next weekend for like an election show, and just concentrate on what's happening on the run up to the election over there. It's such a pantomime, it's such a reality TV show. This whole thing, yeah,
Well, it would be
it's insane what's going
it
on.
would be a TV show because that's all it is a show.
Yeah, and we're into the last 10 days, 12 days, I think it is. The election's in like 10 days, 12 days time, something like that. Tuesday,
Yeah,
10
something like
days,
that.
10 days.
10 days, man. If you're around
Yes.
next week, make sure to hit me up around the same time, same day.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, let's do it. Let's same bat time, same bat channel next week, and we'll do something about more focused on the upcoming election. But I'm watching these Trump rallies, and the people are going cheery, going crazy, and then Biden gets like 10 guys to sit in socially spaced chairs. It's insane. It's insane.
It is. We live in a very, very, very crazy, insane world.
It's clown world. It is clown world now.
It really is. But with that,
Well,
guys, we'll get out of here. Thank you, Peter.
okay. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you Sunday.
Okay, same bat channel, same bat time, and all that good stuff.
Okay. I'll last night. Have you cut